All right, let's get it. It is drive time. It's a Wednesday afternoon. It's 13 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. We got a good show planned for you guys today, man. I'll tell you what. Tip of the cap to Porter, who produces this show and books the show. We got a great guest list today to get you halfway through that work week, to get you one day closer to the weekend, to get you one day closer to football. You're almost there. Week 3 of pro football will start tomorrow. Little Thursday night football action that you can hear on our radio station after we say goodnight. The eyes of the college football world will converge on Salt Lake City on Saturday morning. Fox Big Noon kickoff in town for Utah and Texas Tech, two of the best teams in the Big 12, to a top 20 clash here in Salt Lake City. Of course, Big Noon kickoff will be here. Why they call it Big Noon kickoff is a little confusing. It'll be 8 a.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Mountain time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Like, have we ever landed? Why do they call it Big Noon kickoff when literally it will not start at noon anywhere?
I was going to say, usually, I guess it's usually in SEC country, maybe kickoff at noon. But yeah, it's not going to be noon anywhere but like off the coast of California, I guess.
It's really odd. But anyway, Big 10 kickoff? No, that doesn't work because it's a Big 12 game. We'll workshop that. Remember, yesterday we came up with solutions for Utah's NIL issues, utilizing beef money, cheese money, and alfalfa money. So we are idea people on this radio show. Do not forget that. But a lot to do on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll get you closer to the weekend in both pro and college football. Dolphins-Bills tomorrow night at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York, will be your Thursday night tilt. Unfortunately, the news out of the NFL is just all these injuries, quarterbacks and elsewhere. Joe Burrow out for 3 months. Jaden Daniels questionable for this weekend. J.J. McCarthy will be out for at least 2 games. Brock Purdy expected to miss another couple of games. Justin Fields has a concussion, so it's time for Tyrod Taylor for the New York Jets. So a lot of injuries in the world of pro football to quarterbacks and other positions. We'll kind of keep you up to date, because I know you want to set your fantasy football lineups. I do find it a little odd, and I would, raising my hand for those of you watching us on YouTube, when I got the alert that Joe Burrow was hurt for 3 months, instead of feeling bad for Joe Burrow, I felt bad for myself because I had to find a quarterback for my fantasy team. It's a weird thing. Jake Browning will get the start, and will start for most of the season for Cincinnati. He's a good backup quarterback, played his college ball at Washington. 70% completion rate. He led the NFL when he had a chance to step in for Burrow the last time he was hurt. So a lot of football on the show, college, pro, and otherwise. A little bit of NBA news. Baxter Holmes with a piece, a deep dive on the situation with the Clippers. I'm sure not many people around here give a rip about that. Another change for Colorado at quarterback. A lot of disappointing starts in the world of pro football, but a lot of college football on the show today. Utah, Texas Tech. We'll do a deep dive on that. We'll get to know this Texas Tech roster that is littered with high-paid transfers, namely in the trenches, as I was reading around today this morning. A lot of offensive linemen, defensive linemen. This will be an excellent test for Utah's highly touted offensive line with a lot of big-time, highly-paid transfers in town on the defensive line and offensive line, other position for Texas Tech. Can you buy a Big 12 championship? That is the question Cody Campbell is trying to answer emphatically with the money he has infused in his alma mater. Cody played offensive line during the Mike Leach years and now is bankrolling this program. So a lot to do on the show. Like I said, really good guest list. We'll start things off with Chris Kamrani live in studio. CK covers college football for The Athletic, consistent guest of ours. He will be our first guest. How about Gus Johnson today, kids? Gus Johnson will be on the call for Fox. Big Noon kickoff style. I've known Gus forever. Got started at Madison Square Garden with the New York Knicks. It's been really cool to watch his career rise, to go from a backup PA announcer at MSG to one of the most beloved college basketball voices in the world, and now does a bit of everything for Fox. Tried soccer on for a little bit, but soccer fans are miserable people. They ran him out of that broadcast booth. But excited to interview Gus Johnson today, friend of the show. We'll bring in Chris Level today, who does sidelines for Texas Tech, to get to know the opponent for Utah football a little bit deeper. And then the legend himself, one of the greatest football players to ever grace our state, now coaching a little high school. You guys know him. You love him. It's Eric Weddle. So Chris Camerati, Gus Johnson, Chris Level, Eric Weddle, me, Spence Checketts, that guy, Porter Larson, all of you, the great listeners. Happy Wednesday to you. All right, on this Wednesday, as we're inching closer and closer to game day, I'll tell you what, did a bit of a deep dive on that Tech roster.
There you go.
If you can buy a Big 12 championship, I mean, they're going to try to answer that question. They've got a bunch of really high-priced physical athletes that they paid to play for them. And Saturday's going to be fun. I mean, I'm very curious to see how it plays out, but this is not an easy task for these Utes.
Not at all. Not at all. It's going to be, if not the most talented roster, probably the most talented roster they face in the regular season for Utah. And yeah, to kick off Big 12 play, man, it's an exciting matchup. It's a fun one, but you get right to it when it comes to maybe nerves, definitely when it comes to implications, because I think when we get to November, December, I think these are definitely two teams that we're going to be talking about as far as the Big 12 title goes. So we're getting to business early in Salt Lake City.
I tend to agree. So we'll bring in CK today. He'll have some good insight on this game coming up. But before Chris stops by on a Wednesday afternoon, courtesy of our good friends, your good friends too, at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
Inching closer and closer to Saturday, it will be a massive, massive day for a lot of different reasons. And it isn't just the biggest game of the weekend. It potentially is the best game of the weekend. I'm sure Auburn and Oklahoma have something to say about that. But Texas Tech rolls into town to take on Utah. Texas Tech is 17 in the AP poll. They're clean through 3. Utah is 16 in the AP poll, also clean through 3. So what Cody Campbell really, and we were talking about this early on. The early part of the schedule features so many FBS, FCS opponents. We saw one here with Cal Poly. BYU welcomed in Portland State. Where you really see the discrepancy is in the trenches, right? That's where when two teams, when there's a massive mismatch, where you see the discrepancy is in the trenches. And Cody Campbell, there was a good piece in The Athletic. It'll be good to have CK on today. Cody Campbell, when watching Texas Tech over the past few years, realized they were just getting beat up in the trenches. Oftentimes, Texas Tech has had high-powered offenses. Obviously, Mahomes played there. Mike Leach years. Cody played when Mike was the coach. But where Texas Tech was getting beat was on the offensive and defensive line, the interior, where Utah football is known nationally to be among the most consistent football programs in the country with that dynamic. So Cody Campbell and his oil money brought in the following players. First of all, after Troy Taylor was let go at Stanford, David Bailey, a defensive end, was highly sought after. I believe BYU was in the mix to bring David Bailey in. Texas Tech brings him in really last minute, and it had to pay a very hefty price for him. So this is going to be an interesting test for Utah's offensive line. The first real test for the offensive line. I told you this before. A buddy of mine used the analogy of they were like bar bouncers. The offensive line just picking dudes up and throwing them around. They also brought in, Texas Tech did, Howard Sampson, who's an offensive tackle from Carolina. They brought in Romello Height, who's a defensive end from Georgia Tech. Will Jadis, who's an offensive tackle from Miami of Ohio. A defensive lineman named Lee Hunter, who was actually with Auburn, then went to UCF. So the majority of their money actually went on the offense and defensive line. They brought in defensive back Cole Wisniewski, who won a national championship on the FCS level with North Dakota State, a very well-respected program. Defensive back named Amber Boyd from UTEP. A wide receiver was really talented, Reggie Virgil, Miami of Ohio. Tight end Terrence Carter Jr. from Louisville, and a defensive back from Mississippi, Bryce Pollock. So those are 10 of, I believe, the 18 high-paid transfers they brought in. But namely along the offensive line and the defensive line is where they decided to invest, which makes Saturday really interesting because, as we know, that's where Utah football under Kyle Whittingham, for the majority of his tenure, has really been the most consistent and has made their money, has made their way. This Baron Morton kid is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, 70% completion rate so far, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. His QBR is 208.4. They've got 3 running backs they like to use in Adam Hill, Cameron Dickey, and Jacoby Williams. It's a lot like Utah when it comes to problematic nature of analyzing who they are simply because of the opponent. But the eye test for Texas Tech is a little bit terrifying. They hang 67 on Arkansas Pine Bluff. They hang 62 on Kent State. They hang 45 on Oregon State. And they took the foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. And I mentioned this yesterday. We'll kind of stay on it all week. The one problematic nature when trying to compare these two teams is simply the slow start that Utah got off to against Wyoming, because Texas Tech has not been slow at all at any point all year. I don't think Oregon State's any good at all this year. I feel bad for that program. Our former Pac-12 buddy who was left out of the party when the exodus happened, they do not look like the program they did once upon a time. But that game was over before you could make a sandwich, man. It was 28-0 at half. It was 38-0 after 3, 14-0 after 1. And Utah was up 3-0 on Wyoming at halftime. You cannot afford a slow start at this point when it comes to this team. This is a massive matchup. It is a chance to show a national television, nationally televised audience, the program, the institution, the stadium, the fan base. You don't get this often. I mean, it's an early kick back east, but I think a lot of football fans in different time zones are more inclined to watch, a game in the morning as opposed to a game that starts at 10 p.m. their time where they're going to have to stay up until 2. The line has stayed pretty steady. I'm not sure I'd touch it if I was you. Utah is a slight favorite at home. 3.5 points is what they're getting. And remember, the odds makers typically build in 3 points for the home team. So if this game was played on a neutral field, what they're saying is this is essentially as a pick 'em. It is game week for BYU. BYU is back in action after their bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for East Carolina. This is a tricky game. We'll get into it a little bit later on. East Carolina has a really rabid home field advantage. They can really throw the football. BYU has shown through 2 games that they've got a great ground attack and a really good physical defense. That line has also stayed pretty steady. BYU is getting about 7.5 points. If you include the 3 points that the home team typically gets, what Vegas is telling you is BYU is about 10 points better than East Carolina. But a big weekend in college football, reunited down at Oklahoma as Auburn will head down to Norman. Oklahoma has won the last 3 matches there. This is their 4th matchup of all time. So we'll do some college football coming up on the other side. Our first guest will be Chris Camerati from The Athletic. Gus Johnson, who's going to be calling the game on Saturday, stops by. Chris Level, who will do sidelines for Texas Tech, and then Ute legend Eric Weddle. Busy Wednesday show. Great to have you guys with us. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. I could not ask for a better Wednesday afternoon than a little Dave. And this is a little bit of a deep cut. It's not entirely a deep cut. It was on an Adam Sandler movie. And my guy, Christopher Camarati. Wasn't this on Mr. Deeds? Wasn't Where Are You Going on Mr. Deeds?
That sounds right.
It wasn't.
Preeminent Sandler eye over here. Yeah. I mean, that sounds right. Dave song on Mr. Deeds.
But kind of a deep track. This is not like an Ants Marching or Crash. This is a deep-ish track. Porter, will you effort Mr. Deeds soundtrack? Where Are You Going?
It's an amazing soundtrack.
It is.
You're correct.
See?
Look at that.
Well, there's not a lot of Dave trivia you can stump me on.
Yeah, that's true.
Is there a question off the top of your head?
No, I'm just always going to come back to Aaron's Chicago.
No, see, that's the one thing you can point to, and it wasn't even his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
It was the bus driver.
It was.
If you're on a tour bus, there's only one thing to do when you need to go to the bathroom.
Which is what?
Go on the bus.
Yeah.
But it's usually implied you don't then empty the toilet over a river in Chicago.
Have you ever gone to the bathroom on a bus?
I'm sure I have at some point.
I've never been on a bus that fancy. I've only been on city buses.
There are bathrooms on city buses, aren't there?
There are not. You've never been on a city bus. Look at this guy.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure at some point I have used a restroom on a bus.
Okay.
And I have been on a city bus. You know what? I never mind. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I've gone to the restroom on a city bus before, but you just should not empty the toilet over a river.
Or hold it.
Should be implied.
Yeah.
I had a horrific summer job once where it was sales, and you basically were in your car all day. And so instead of stopping to utilize a restroom facility at a gas station, I oftentimes just emptied a water bottle and did the thing there so I could just keep going and selling.
18-wheeler style?
Selling living scriptures. No, it was a old Tahoe. Luckily, I had to sleep in it, so I had enough room in the back. What's the worst job you've ever had?
Ooh, that's a great question. Worked at Sonic as a burger flipper in high school.
Okay.
Wasn't terrible. You just smelled.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at a place in California called Great America. It's like their lagoon in the Bay Area.
Okay.
And I ran a snow cone shack.
Okay.
And got paid zilch in the middle of the summertime.
How old were you?
I was like 13. I was
13?
I was like very young to be doing, and I was running it myself.
Isn't that against the law?
I mean, yeah, but
okay. Well, a lot of things are against the law.
Yeah, that wasn't bad as much as it was stressful. I can't say I've really ever had a terrible job. I've had hard jobs. I tore out my buddy's family's kitchen like my senior year of high school so they could remodel it. So we got to do all the demo stuff. Okay. That was really cool.
Okay.
Hard, but yeah, nothing terrible. I mean, if I'm going to go kind of chalk, I'd probably say flipping burgers.
Okay. Yeah, I spent 3.5 months selling living scriptures out of my car in the greater Detroit area.
You literally mean living scriptures?
I literally
I thought you were making like a Vivint joke.
No. That's a real thing. Between my freshman and sophomore year, I spent 4.5 months with 3 of my friends. 2 of my friends. The other guy was just kind of there. Selling living scripture videos out of my car to members of the church in the greater Detroit area.
Did you guys go to Tigers games?
We were so flat broke, we would get 2 Whoppers in the morning, and then just basically, it was a very unhealthy existence. You make a little money at the end of the summer, which is the point. Had to pay a little tuition to get back in school after a loose semester where I literally didn't go to class once.
Yeah.
But I was able to get that done, got back in school. But that was by far the worst job I've ever had.
I feel like there is a space for a comedy series about door-to-door, like young salesmen.
Yes, especially here.
You know what we call it?
What's that?
Knockers.
There's some juice here. Because how many people listening to the show right now did summer sales at some point?
I mean, if you did, bless you, but at the same time, please stop knocking on my door.
I'm with you.
It's like some of us have children, and you're waking this kid up to try to sell me something to kill this rat. It's like, I'll kill the rat, old school.
Is it pest control?
It's mainly pest control nowadays.
Porter, what's the worst job you've ever had?
I once took a parking police job kind of out of spite.
Ooh.
I think I talked about I didn't write a single ticket or boot a car, so I got fired that week, but
anarchy over here.
But I would rather dig trenches, which I have done plenty of. I put up fences is awful, but I would rather do that than write a ticket for someone parking.
I respect taking a stand, taking that job and not writing tickets. Those people are the worst, man.
Thank you.
Anyway,
for the people.
how are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. How are you?
It's a good 7 minutes of nonsense.
It's great.
How good is Utah football?
We're going to find out on Saturday.
Yeah.
And we'll find out how good Texas Tech is as well. Having gone to school there, having covered the program off and on for the last 20 years or so, these types of games tend to traditionally not go Utah's way.
Okay.
And I say that with making the big hullabaloo and Witt riding out on the motorcycle with McAfee during game day or McAfee show here a few years ago before they got thumped by like 30 by Oregon.
Yep.
I know Cam was hurt that game, but and the game that the game that shall not be talked about.
Are you going TCU?
TCU.
Yeah.
With the jerseys. I don't know. Maybe it's a different team. It's a different era. To me, the most fascinating part of this game is old versus new. You have Kyle Whittingham, who's been at the helm for over 20 years, been at the school for over 30, slowly built this thing into where it is now. And then you have Joey McGuire in like year 2 or 3, who has a literal oil billionaire in his back pocket and says, here's a blank check. Get me the best roster you can in 6 months. It's kind of a clashing of styles and eras this Saturday.
You know what was interesting, and I didn't know this entirely, but this morning it was actually someone from The Athletic. I'll look it up. Maybe did a deep dive on Tech's offseason. And
Sam Kahn.
That's exactly who it was.
Yeah.
So the projections are Tech is a full share member. I think about $15.5 million of their $20.5 goes to the football team. I don't know what the number is for Utah. Maybe you do. Mark Harlan has said they are a full participating member as well in the 20.5. I would imagine
that's generally like 75%.
Yeah, so I would imagine kind of the same number goes to the pay for play side of things for football players. But the projections are $55 million in NIL money outside of the $15.5 the school allocates to the players from Cody Campbell, and that fund or whatever it is have gone to the players they brought in. And the majority of the highest priced players are in the trenches. Mm-hmm. So what Sam outlined is Cody, who was an offensive lineman when Mike Leach was there, right?
Yep.
Was watching the program. And for years under Leach, Patrick Mahomes, they had a lot of like high-powered offenses.
50 to 40 games.
Right. But what according to the piece, what Cody recognizes, we are getting beat in the trenches. So they've brought in 3 defensive linemen, David Bailey from Stanford, Romeo Height from Georgia Tech, Lee Hunter from UCF, and 2 offensive linemen, Howard Sampson from Carolina and Will Jadas from Miami of Ohio. 5 of their 7 highest-paid transfers are in the trenches. So it's time to learn about Utah's offensive line. I feel pretty confident that they're good, but this is going to be the first time a team shows up with athletes that can match them.
And you're going to be presented with the opportunity to see where these guys thrive. If they're going to be able to, get push and establish the run and run for 250 yards like Kyle wants them to, or are they going to be more impactful in pass protection? Utah will be somewhat, maybe they've seen David Bailey because he came from Stanford, but maybe not. But he's very good. He was one of the best edge rushers in the country the last couple of years. I think this will be obviously Utah's stiffest test on the across the board, but especially on the offensive line. How is Tech going to scheme up against these 2 future first-round picks at the tackle position? I don't know what their health situation is. I know Jaron Kump was banged up the first couple of weeks, but I think he played at Wyoming. We'll find out. I think today is the first day they release the injury report.
That will be today.
Okay.
It should be coming anytime, I think.
So we'll see how they are faring at both the offensive line and the defensive line. But yeah, it's Cody Campbell was right to be able to prioritize the trenches, as we say, to invest in, because historically Tech has been able to score 1 billion points more often than not. And there's lots of side pieces to this game. Remember that everyone's stoked that Jason Beck is here and Devin Dampier came, but there were 2 other guys who were primary targets before those guys. One was Ben Arbuckle, who took John Mateer to Oklahoma, and then the second was Mac Leftwich, who ended up going to Texas Tech. So, lots of, as we say, plot points, side plots, whatever, what have you.
Yeah, and there's because you referenced this. I said we'll find out how good Utah is. We'll also find out how good Tech is. But through the first 3 games, with the competition in mind, what do you like about what you've seen from Utah, and what are the things that you're still hoping to learn? It's just so hard, which is why every year on this show I rail against the early season scheduling. It makes it impossible to understand exactly what we're seeing.
Well, yes. If this is the Wyoming team from a few years ago that Tech beat in Laramie, that we might be having a different story. You never know what you're going to get with a lot of these Group of 5 schools from year to year. There could have been a chance that Wyoming was good this year, and that would have made Utah's non-conference schedule look really good. The UCLA win is looking like a net negative at this point.
They stink. It was so easy to see that. And the Monday after that game, I was so annoyed. Because you're listening to things around the market, you're reading things about the market. I'm having guests on. It's like, it's still a Big Ten team. It's still UCLA. It's like, no, they suck.
Yeah,
it was
not.
Easy to. So
they might go winless this year.
Vanini dropped Utah in his rankings after New Mexico went into the Rose Bowl and basically did to UCLA what Utah did to them.
Yeah, you can make an argument that New Mexico's win over UCLA was more dominant than Utah's. But Devin Dampier, you have to start with the head of the snake, so to speak. Like, he's been everything that Utah hoped for and more. Kyle said that so much in the weekly press conference. They had a lot of sloppy play in that, especially in that first half in Laramie. A lot of penalties. I know people were up in arms about Kyle not being able to do his substitution thing. They eventually figured it out. I guess I'll start with what's worked is Jason Beck's offense producing 250 yards rushing a game, which is what Kyle wants. And Devin Dampier, what needs to be worked on is just overall playing clean football. Too many penalties, too many self-inflicted mistakes. And when you play good teams, that's going to come back to bite you. And we still don't know who Devin's go-to guy is. And maybe there isn't going to be one this year. Through 3 games, it seems to be any number of tight ends. And, the topic of conversation, the topic du jour was, what's going to happen to the tight ends in a Jason Beck offense. Apparently, they're going to be the primary focal point for Devin Dampier on a lot of passing downs.
Yeah, and, the Ryan Davis kid leads them. He had 10 catches against Wyoming. And, of course, Devin and Ryan played together last year at New Mexico. Ryan has 19 catches. To your point, Dallin has 11. We saw Hunter Andrews get a bunch of carries, including a touchdown rush. I will say one of the things that's most fascinating is watching Jason discover new toys, per se, and then try to utilize them in some of these games with lesser opponents, maybe to see what sort of talent he has at his disposal, because there really hasn't been a consistent link outside of Devin being Devin, and then you can tell they like both Wayshawn and Akari. They've got 2 good backs.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're able to utilize the last couple games to get reps for players that you hope to scheme into various packages over the coming weeks.
Like it.
But I mean, Ryan Davis is the obvious one, but you haven't seen much from Tobias Merriweather. I don't know what the status is of the Mississippi State kid. I don't think he's played all that much. Creed.
Whittemore.
Yeah. Haven't seen him much. The great touchdown pass, the Houdini in Bowler's honor for throwing it to Larry Simmons in the corner. That was kind of his first big play of the year.
That was intentional. You don't have to do that. Was intentional. Shout out Bowler.
But yeah, I mean honestly, if you asked me, I'd say it's Dallin Bentley, JJ Buchanan, and the other dude who's escaping me at the moment. But we will find out what Jason is able to do, and maybe I've always been a proponent of you need a guy on the outside to be able to go to on third down or whatever.
No.
And historically, in recent history, it's been tight ends at Utah. It's been Brant Keithy. It's been Dalton Kincaid. But we'll find out how Tech schemes up against Devin's ability. We talk about the run game and how many design runs you'd like to see from him on a week-to-week basis. I can tell you for sure if Tech is selling out on stopping Parker and Rogers, you should not be surprised if Jason goes to the well for Devin's run game. And Kyle said that this weekend as well. Is you can't limit a player who naturally affects the game by pure instinct the way he does.
Hunter Andrews was the other one that you were looking for there. Yeah. I found this kind of interesting. So I don't know that this could be a nothing burger because they're 3-0 and they've stomped all three of their opponents. But in the name of trying to figure out what the rest of the year is going to look like in conference play, are they getting enough big plays? Are they getting enough chunk plays? They've got 3 plays over 40 yards. The 2 longest plays belong to Wayshawn. That 52-yard swing pass that was very Dijon Stanley-like a year ago against SUU, when everyone's like, hey, secret weapon unlocks. Like, no, I could have caught those and ran them in. And then Wayshawn also has the 43-yard rushing touchdown. But Jason was asked during media, like, is this an issue? Are you concerned that you haven't had enough chunk big plays? And his response was pretty honest and interesting. He said, essentially, it might not be who we are. Like, who we are is a team that moves the ball up and down the field with efficiency. And that's not a bad thing because you rest your defense a little bit. But as we move into conference play, are you hoping to see? Should we be hoping to see more big chunk plays?
If you have an offense that can have 20 play drives like they've had the first few weeks of the season, I think Kyle will take that and run with it 10 times out of 10, as opposed to a 2-play 90 or 88-yard drive. Like, yes, it's sexy to be able to break a 75-yard touchdown pass, but coaches, especially like Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley, want to prioritize the health and rest of the defense. So, I mean, if you're talking about an offensive play caller who currently is in lockstep with how Kyle wants an offense to run, 10 to 15 to 20 play-long drives is definitely up his alley.
Kyle, Kyle was on College Football Live yesterday. Zubin Mehenti interviewed him. Did I see that he's going to be on with the Barstool guys?
He was this morning.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
I did not.
Neither did I, because I won't.
Pizza?
So we'll get to the pizza and maybe bagels if we're lucky. But I accidentally, because I have some of the daily shows recorded, as part of my prep, I'll see what people are talking about. And I caught the end of the first Barstool national broadcast on Fox. They were debating how many times you wipe after you go 2. I'm not kidding. That's what they were talking about on Fox's national sports platform.
Yeah, and to think that, like, when you were a child, that's what would get the bar of soap in your mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe it.
When Porter, did you see Coach Witt on the Barstool thing today by chance?
I missed it.
Look at Porter also missing it. Well, that's 3 strikes. Shame on us.
But no, here's the question. We've lost, haven't we? We lost.
Yes.
We were wrong all along because the Barstool thing is not for me. It never will be. And to tune into their first show when they're debating how many times you need to wipe yourself after you go number 2, and that's on Fox.
Wait, was this like during the Texas-Ohio State
No,
game?
They now have a daily show that's right before Colin Cowher's live broadcast.
Okay, I got you.
And Colin has some really good guests, so I like to tag Colin's show.
My guy Bruce Feldman's on all the time.
Feldman's on, Klatt's on. They've got some good college football coverage. And the way the DVR works is you catch about 5 minutes of the previous show before you watch it. And so the last 5 minutes of Barstool was tagged on the first 5 minutes of the Colin Cowherd show. And there were
Colin was stoked about that.
4 of them debating, like 2 wipes, 3 wipes. And I'm like, what is happening here? And, the Big 12 is now in bed with Portnoy. He's going to be in town raiding pizza in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And I remember when that stuff first started kind of gaining some traction. I'm like, this is horrible. How is this ever going to last? And now it's like taking over the world. It's really wild, man.
Yeah, I wish I had something insightful to say.
How many wipes, CK?
Well, I'm looking out after the environment. You got to go with the bidet.
Okay, all right. See, maybe this is just what we need to do. Text in. I was
Power Poll Wednesday.
I was so stunned that on Fox's national sports platform, they had like 4 essentially Message Bro dudes. They all look like they're Message Bro podcast guys that now have a national platform sitting there on YouTube debating this. And Kyle Whittingham was on that show today.
Yeah. What do we got? What else we got?
Well, Coach Will Coach Witt drive the motorcycle up to the Big Noon set?
My guess would be yes.
Well, at least the Big Noon set has reputable football people with
I don't know where
Leinart and
and Urban,
Brady Quinn, Matt Leinart.
I don't know where they're setting it up. Are they going to do President's Circle?
Probably.
Yeah.
Rob Stone will be on the show tomorrow. We're having Gus Johnson on the show today. But, yeah, this whole movement to widespread acceptance of something that I thought was going to be a moment in time has really caught me off guard. Moving on?
Yeah, I mean,
moving
on. Yeah,
moving on.
I'd love to move on from things.
Okay, fine. I just, there are other things we could talk about, but I know you don't want to go there. John Henry Daly.
Yeah.
Boom. Transition. We debated Utah had to replace.
Is he the new mayor?
He might be.
You got to ask Nate.
Utah had to replace 5 members of the defensive front. Keanu is at BYU. Junior's trying to make his way in the NFL. John Henry Daly, 5 sacks through 3 games. That's tied for first in the country. So that's pretty cool, right, Chris?
It's watching the Wyoming game. It was impressive to see his pursuit of the quarterback. Didn't really give Anderson much time to breathe, even out of the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Utah's been waiting for a new mayor in recent years. There were guys that were having bites at the apple, but didn't necessarily do it. Van Fillinger had some moments, but he was hurt most of his career at Utah. Maybe there's a new mayor in town.
Maybe.
I mean, and that would go a long ways.
What is Nate's record? Is it 18.5? Porter, do you remember Nate's record? It's like 18.5, 19 or something?
Right around there. Let me confirm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 5 through 3 puts John Henry Daly at least in the running for the election. So we could potentially see a new mayor.
Yeah. We'll see how he fares against the best and most talented offensive line that he faces.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how Utah's defense fares in this one.
Yeah. Look at that analysis. Bringing up the mayor of Sac Lake City, is that your way to try to turn this into a political discussion?
Absolutely not.
I'm with you.
I just and I'm gonna stump for our guy. Advanced Window Products.
Shout out.
Did our windows before I even knew anything.
Seriously.
It had no Nate Orchard's owning of the Advanced Window Products had nothing to do with us choosing it. Amanda and I were impressed with their presentation. So far, 10 out of 10. Replaced a couple broken windows in a matter of a couple of days. No problems.
Did you save $2,500 on a purchase of 10 windows or more?
Amanda's going to be pissed because I don't know.
You probably didn't need to replace 10 windows, is my guess.
We might have.
Then you better have saved $2,500. CK.
I know. I'm bad at these things.
Oh, Amanda's going to be really mad.
Yeah.
Did you say 14.5 is Nate's record?
Correct. And Dimmick was at 14 the year before that.
In one season.
Yeah, yeah. But still,
30 is the career.
Wow.
Yeah.
We might have a new mayor of Sac Lake City.
That's big time.
All right, we'll catch a break. This got weird. I want to tell you about my friends at IFA Country Stores. With IFA's Step 4 fall and winter lawn food, you'll get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More at your local IFA or at ifa.coop. More less weird conversation with Chris Camarati coming up on the other side. His favorite Robert Redford movie. And more breakdown of football. So keep it here on ESPN 700. You're just going to be defiant consistently. You know the bylaws of the show when it comes to the greatest jam band of all time, that we do deep tracks because of Andy Bernard. This is the only song that they've won a Grammy for.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that they won a Grammy for so much to say.
It's the exact opposite of a deep track, and you know this because we've been over it.
Yeah. I think it's a disconnect.
I'm not saying they should have won the Grammy for it. I'm saying they did, is what it comes down to.
This was a hit.
CK,
I guess you're objectively correct there.
top 5 Dave tracks.
Ooh.
Do you have enough knowledge to give me 5?
Yeah.
Why am I hearing an echo?
Felt like
Because that's because I'm turning the control room on. That's my fault. Top 5 tracks.
I'm going to go 41 is my number 1.
Excellent. We'll do that next.
I got to pull up some tunes, so carry me for a second.
All right, Chris Camerani is live in studio. Reminder, Gus Johnson will be our guest in about 30 minutes. Gus will be on the call for Fox. Is Fox big news? Okay, go ahead.
And 41's always one, but then the next 4 are it.
Sure, no particular order.
Jimmy Thing,
Okay,
Two-Step,
okay.
Dancing Nancy's,
Mhm.
and because I feel compelled to not go with only the old stuff, I'll go with one song that for some reason really crystallized in my brain because I always think of one movie when it comes to it, and it's The Space Between.
Okay.
And it was on the trailer for the Black Hawk Down movie when it came out, like when I was like 14 or 15.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go with that.
For somebody that consistently mocks me for my Dave love, you actually have some Dave knowledge.
Yeah, I do.
I'm very impressed. So Gus Johnson will stop by. By the way, they call it Fox Big Noon Kickoff. It's kicking off 10 a.m. local, 8 a.m. Eastern time.
But it's noon Eastern, which is the big main draw for most of America. If you think about Ohio State kicking off at noon.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Ask a dumb question, get a dumb answer. You're right. So that's the deal.
Yeah.
That's the big national window at noon. So there will be a lot of eyes on this game. And that does bring in an interesting dynamic, as does simply the slot of kicking off at 10 a.m. Have we had a 10 a.m. kickoff at Rice Eccles before?
I watched Kyle's press conference. I think they've had maybe 1 or 2. I can't remember. I feel like there's been one in the last couple of years, but this is going to be the highest profile early kickoff. And listen, man, we can dissect and really dive into the minutia of what may or may not determine the outcome of the game. Kyle's been asking for decades to not put them at 8:30 on ESPN and FS1. I'm sure he's elated that they are playing it at 10 a.m.
Elated.
It's basically the earliest start time that you can get, especially at home.
When things are good, Kyle is often elated.
Exactly.
Yeah, the early kick dynamic, what do you think it does to the crowd?
Well, Utah fans are notoriously late to getting to their seats anyways, and I still haven't figured out why exactly, because there aren't that many people tailgating.
I feel like that's a state of Utah thing.
I think it's
for
a state of
everything.
Utah thing, yeah. It's funny because Utah fans really have a strong disdain for like Southern California fans, and like they have that in lockstep. Like they are very similar in those two aspects. It takes a while to fill out the Delta Center. It takes a while to fill out crypto.com or whatever the hell it's called now. I feel like BYU is a little bit of an outlier. I feel like Lavelle generally gets packed faster than Rice Eccles Stadium in the times that I've covered games at Lavelle. I could be wrong, but I know this is the home of the Utes. But all is to say is unless you're chowing down on like breakfast burritos and are running late, like there's probably no excuse for you to not be at least through security and walking through the tight concourse.
Tailgate opens at 7. I used to try to go down to at least one BYU football game a year before basically getting down there was like trying to get to JFK on the Van Wyck during rush
it's pretty
hour.
gnarly. You got to get there like 6 or 7 hours early.
Yeah, and then you're not home until 3 a.m.
There's only so much Costa Vida you can eat.
Grab a swig on the way home, stay up. Yeah, I used to try to get down to a BYU game. I'm going to go see their basketball team this year.
I probably will have to as well.
Yeah, they're going to be really good.
But I will say maybe we should both comb the schedule and find an ideal kick time for a BYU game to go down and cover this year.
Okay. I will look that up. BYU actually does have a game this week. But as far as the early morning kick time for the team,
Yeah.
Kyle talked about. I found this interesting. I guess when they went to the Swamp a couple years ago, they tried a bunch of different things, and Kyle essentially admitted, like, we tried
Too many bells and whistles.
We did too much.
Yep.
So what do you do with this?
I mean, you're going to have to get the guys up presumably earlier than they usually have to get up and get them going. But like Kyle said, like they're planning on eating breakfast around the same time. But I don't know. You just have to go out and beat the team that you're playing. You're at home. Like this is the first big test. You can argue that since Utah's inclusion in the Big 12, this is the biggest home game to date. Like last year, the Baylor game, we were coming off that SUU game where Cam had 5 touchdown passes in the first half. Baylor wasn't good last year. That didn't like this is the most hyped home game that Utah has had probably since that Oregon game in 2023 when they got stomped. So you just got to go. Everybody's dealing with the same stuff, man.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And it's probably more complicated for Tech because they're traveling to time zone and they're staying in hotels. Like they're going to have challenges as well. The only BYU has already had 2 home games. So they've got 4 left. The only time that we have so far is West Virginia on the 3rd at 8:30 in Provo. I will not be doing that.
I'm afraid the Utah game will be a late one too.
Probably. And then it's TCU and UCF. So maybe we'll luck out with that. Any desire to go down to Utah, BYU?
If it's an earlier kick time, I might. Yeah.
You might get assigned to that if both these teams handle their business.
Yeah.
Do you have any East Carolina knowledge? Spencer Hall dropped some on the show last week.
Cool logo.
Apparently crazy fans.
I don't even know where it's located.
It's in North Carolina, I believe.
Okay. One of the 2 Carolinas.
Yes, we only 50-50 shot of getting that right. So BYU back in action, East Carolina this week after a bye. It is in Greenville, North Carolina at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. You know what's interesting? BYU is starting to be covered the way Utah has been covered under Kyle. We had Kalani on a couple weeks ago, and I asked him a very pointed question about building this thing up over a decade. And I said, how much of your process is your own? How much of the process is what you learned playing for Lavelle and coaching under Kyle? And Kalani, in very Kalani fashion, as a very humble guy, said, none of it's mine. It was all built under what I believed Lavelle did right and what I learned under Kyle. And now when you read publications covering BYU, sounds a lot like they cover Utah. Really good defense, fast, physical, can run the football. We'll see about the quarterback.
Yeah.
What have you learned about Bear so far?
Well, I will say there should be an asterisk to that because in the last 5 years, BYU has had 2 quarterbacks go on to play in the NFL, in Jaron Hall and Zach Wilson.
Oh, I'm thinking if it's Taysom's a tight end, isn't he?
Yeah, but Taysom, I don't think Taysom wasn't a Kalani guy. I'm just talking about Aaron is able to recruit quarterbacks, and they got a 5-star kid in Ryder Lyons who's going to be there at some point after his mission. That's a stone's throw away. It's a while now, but I mean, when Kalani took the job, they were a mess defensively, and it took him, you could say, 5 to 6 seasons to really get to the point of recruiting athletes from Utah, which is what he did at Utah and while he was at Utah. Project guys that maybe were tight ends in high school that transitioned to linebackers, or receivers in high school that transitioned to safeties, the safety position. And what can't be understated is hiring Jay Hill from Weber State. I think that if you look at kind of the lexicon of Kalani's tenure currently, the 2 flashpoints are hiring Aaron and hiring your coordinators. If you hire guys that know what to do, more often than not, results will follow. So what am I seeing from Bear? He plays like a guy who wears the number 47 at quarterback. Flutie, give him some Flutie vibes.
Doug Flutie
little
vibes.
Flutie vibes.
Okay.
Flutie, who wore number 22 as a quarterback. I'm kidding. Big kid, seems to want to run the football. Long roundabout way of saying you're right. BYU does look like a Utah football team in blue and white, as much as neither fan base wants to hear that. So
somebody from your publication, and then I think it was Yahoo this week, floated Kalani's name out there for the UCLA
He's
job.
not taking that job.
Do you take the phone call though?
You take the phone call, absolutely. But the administration doesn't seem to give, as Spence Checketts would say, a rip about football. They don't have. I mean, look at it like this: Cal football, Cal Berkeley got left for dead, left out of the equation after the Pac-12 died, had to go join the ACC. They've basically kind of turned it around twice before UCLA has turned it around one time.
Yeah.
And since UCLA joined the Big Ten. So if you're Kalani, do you take the phone call? Yeah. But you would be leaving a place that you could conceivably coach the rest of your career. He got a contract extension after, I don't remember when it was.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and they've been on the upward trajectory since joining the Big 12. I just don't. Talking to friends who work in the Southern California media market, like UCLA football is basically at the bottom of the barrel. Like nobody goes, nobody cares. Like if you're going to a Rose Bowl that is a quarter full or 30% full, does that resonate with the people in the area? No, it's. I don't want to say it's an impossible job because we've seen people do it decently. Jim Mora did a decent job, but Rick Neuheisel back in the day. But it is a thankless job. It is probably the one job in P4 football that should be good, but is almost impossible to make good.
Yeah, it's an hour. The Rose Bowl is an hour away from campus. It's wild to have your football stadium an hour away from campus where most of your students live. It is puzzling though for a school that is geographically located in one of the hottest recruiting hotbeds in America
and an amazing school, academically, amazing campus in Westwood. But your point sticks.
Yeah.
You're technically probably 13 to 15 miles away, but in LA traffic, you are an hour away at minimum.
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't make sense, but it does at the same time.
The Chip Kelly thing is fascinating. I thought he would be the guy to turn that around. And my Chip Kelly opinion continues to be steeped in a team that maybe for 3 years was the most entertaining college football team I ever watched. So, and of course, I'm talking about the Oregon teams that were competing for national championships, Heisman Trophy winners. And I always thought wherever he went, he was going to be awesome. And he's just maybe a better coordinator, which he's been over the past couple of years than a head coach, which is wild to say about who I thought was like an innovator in college football.
Well, you still can be an innovator at the coordinator position. I mean, who was the offensive coordinator of last year's national championship team? Chip Kelly.
Yes, he was.
And then he decided to jump back to the NFL as an OC. But yeah, if it wasn't Chip Kelly, I don't know what type of personality could turn it around there. If you're Kalani, you take the call, but how much more is UCLA going to pay you than BYU? Now, we don't know Kalani's annual salary because BYU is a private institution, and that really hasn't been leaked by anybody. Those are hard numbers to get. I just don't know how much more it would be worth. How much more money it would be worth to take that risk. It's just too big of a risk.
Well, and to your point, and I do know what they're paying Kevin Young. At least somebody who would know has told me what they're paying Kevin Young. They're paying Kevin Young a lot of money. He's one of the highest paid college basketball coaches in America. I don't know what they're paying Kalani. I do know as part of his extension, A-Rod and Jay got more money. His support staff got more money. They also gave him the moniker of Associate Athletic Director. I don't really know what that means. But I think the point that you make is that's the best one is there's a good chance. Let's say UCLA gives him a $2.5 million raise per year. And I guess with the way college football coaching contracts work, maybe you have a buyout of 50, 60 million or whatever. So there's that. But to your point, BYU's on an upward trajectory with the way they've invested in athletics, with the boosters they have that help out with NIL. And Kalani could coach at BYU for another, he's 49, 50 maybe?
Yeah.
So he could coach for another 15, 18 years if he wanted to. And UCLA, you might be a dead man walking, but do you take the cash? Do you take the money?
Conventional wisdom says no. Conventional wisdom also says that Kalani's probably made a lot of money. So I don't know how much the extra, if he is getting a theoretical $2.5 million raise, if another $9 million over 4 or 5 years moves the needle all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But you would be going from a school that suddenly has buku resources to a school that has way less resources.
Yeah.
And you'd be going, ironically, to another like BYU's considered kind of a basketball school lately with Kevin Young and all these recruits. UCLA is always going to be a basketball school.
100%.
So it's like, I don't know. I just don't see a pathway there, and maybe somebody will take that job. But if Kalani's route as a head coach at BYU has proven anything, it takes time. And I don't know how much time you would be allotted at UCLA.
Yeah.
And unfairly so, because you would be up against the 8 ball from the get. You would not have resources. You would be in the Big Ten. You would be probably a punching bag for a lot of the heavy hitters for a long time. Why leave a good thing to start from scratch?
Do you leverage the phone call into another contract extension
Probably.
for BYU, or does BYU even want to play that game?
I would guess no.
Yeah.
Like, Kalani is a BYU guy, man.
Yeah,
Everybody has Southern California ties if you've played and coached on the West Coast for as long as Kalani has. But why would you want to leave your alma mater that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into? I mean, don't forget the really lean years early on when BYU fans in my life were shaking their fist at the sky and saying, "Go get Andy Reid," and I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
They are where they are now because of the hard work that he's put in. And again, it's maybe you leverage that. I don't know if Kalani is that type of guy, though.
No, I tend to agree with you, and your points are well taken. The guy that Kalani took over for, I don't know how real the start is. And the Bronco conversation has always been really interesting because, as you know, I did a radio show with Gordon Monson for 7 years. And
he got along great with Bronco.
He did not. And Gordon was very honest in his disdain for the approach that Bronco took. And then at the same time, you would have people say, this is not who he really is. He was tasked with cleaning up BYU after the Gary Croton debacle,
correct,
which was like cleaning up after a Led Zeppelin party. So he was asked to kind of toe the line. And in his other stops at UVA, New Mexico, and now Utah State, you don't get the religiosity undertones that you got with the Helaman Warriors after wins for BYU football.
Because you don't need to.
So you think he was wearing a bit of a mask down there?
I don't know if he's wearing a mask. I mean, some people like to find different ways to express their faith and their gratitude of their own culture. And Bronco was like that. I mean, I remember doing a story during the COVID year when BYU was started 11-0 or whatever. And I talked to former BYU players who told me on the record that it was weird walking around the hallways seeing, giant scriptures from the Book of Mormon, even though they were members of the church themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
It was kind of off-putting. I think the most dangerous thing to happen to Utah wasn't the dissolution of the Pac-12. It was Kalani making BYU cool again. And we've seen what he's been able to do there. Bronco Utah State makes sense to me.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think he's a very smart defensive coach. He knows what he's doing. He can recruit the types of players and build, I think, a contender in the Mountain West Conference. Bryson Barnes looks really good, our guy. So we'll see what happens. The problem is it's so early on in the season.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what's real.
Yeah.
A lot of fool's gold is going to be, brought to the forefront here in the next few weeks.
For the past 4 years, I've gone down to do a show at Alema Harrington's charity golf tournament. And a lot of the BYU football players from the 70s, 80s, and 90s are there to support Alema. And so what we do is before we go to break, my producer or my tech on site will go grab the players to do a quick 5-minute hit. So we get each player for about 5 or 6 minutes. And I had one of the players off air tell me a story, and he's always asked me not to use his name. I don't think it's hard to figure out because he had a son that was a pretty highly recruited high school player. So we got a BYU alum, son who plays high school ball, who's really good. And this gentleman, my understanding is currently is a stake president down in Utah County somewhere. And he said Bronco sat down in their living room, and the first question he asked the son is, what is your favorite scripture? And he said that himself, as a high-ranking LDS official, was turned off of the whole process, and he ended up playing for Kyle at Utah. So your point about Kalani is obviously any coach down there will be tied to what the culture asks of you, and that's okay because the church owns the school. But you don't get the same pious, holier-than-thou feel from Kalani at all. Kalani just feels as kind of like an everyman that can relate to anybody.
And a huge portion of this is the fact that Kalani has been able to widen the scope of the type of player he can convince to come to BYU. Who are the past 2 quarterbacks at BYU? Jake Retzlaff, Jewish, a member of the Jewish community. Bear Bachmeier's Catholic.
Yeah.
So it's like historically you're talking about the superstar Utah Mormon kid quarterback was going to go to BYU, or the Southern California kid was going to go to BYU. I don't know if you remember the name Ben Olsen back in the day.
He was their highest-rated recruit before Ryder signed.
Exactly. So it's like once upon a time there was an archetype of what type of quarterback there was at BYU, and justifiably so. That's what Lavelle hung his hat on. Jim McMahon.
Bit of an outlier.
Yeah,
but
I know, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
Again, what Kalani has been able to do in the, has it been 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah. That's
10
insane.
years,
So in the 10 years that he's been coaching his alma mater, he's been able to normalize what I think for a lot of people turned into a very kind of ugly us versus them type feel, especially from an in-state perspective.
Yeah.
And, obviously Kalani came up under Kyle. He loves Kyle. There was always such from a media point of view, you loved it because you knew Kyle and Bronco did not have all that much grace for each other.
It felt very obvious.
It felt, yes.
Yeah.
Whereas Kalani and Kyle are very close. And, when I went down there last year, Kalani said he talks to Kyle a lot more than people might think. Like they're when you get into the ring with somebody for as long as Kalani and Kyle had, Kalani told me an amazing story of Kyle hiring him for his first job, like when Kalani was trying to break into the coaching realm. So it's just way more dialed down.
It is, and I think it's permeated, at least from my vantage point, and I am someone who is not actively on social media much at all anymore, so I can't really speak to that. But I feel like the civil nature of Kalani and Kyle's relationship and the decency and love they have for each other, if you listen to what they say, it may have calmed the waters with the fan base a little bit.
Oh, 100%. And thank goodness, because it was getting kind of
felt heated,
little pious.
Yep.
From one side, and then a little kind of like overt flexing, where it's like, it's okay, man, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
But as we know, people have a hard time of just sitting back and enjoying things.
No, this rivalry should be a gift for all of us, and it's a fun week, and we'll cover it when it pops up. All right, before we set you loose, odd week for the lads. Couple matches.
Sonny's in town tonight. Are you going?
Is that tonight?
Yeah.
Oh,
your guy.
That is my guy. I feel like that's an environment I'm going to just watch on television this evening.
Why?
Just because I like to analyze soccer on TV.
Yeah. I mean, you get the full view.
Yeah, full view. You know me, I'm an
total 11.
I'm an all 22 guy, so give me the total 11. They did get a win over the weekend.
Yeah.
Play in at least. Do you think they can at least get
they
there?
They got to win tonight and get a result at LA this weekend, and then we can revisit this conversation next week.
Okay. All right, pal. Great to see you. Best to the family. And by the way, do you dance?
I dance very well.
Will you dance at weddings?
100%.
Can you dance sober?
Oh, 1,000,000,000%. Where do you think I grew up, man?
No, that's just so weird to me. People that dance sober are wild. So
no,
I might see you dance this weekend.
You might. I'll be in a suit and tie.
So you are
unlike you.
You are going to wear a tie.
100%.
Maybe
listen to me.
You're making me rethink now.
You understand that I'm the type of guy that has the tie still tied from the last time I wore a suit, which is like 2 years ago.
I'm picturing a sleek, slim black suit, white shirt, black tie situation.
Close.
Okay.
You'll see.
Okay. You're making me rethink my decision not to wear a tie, but nonetheless, I'll see you in a couple of days.
Thanks, man.
Chris Comrani from The Athletic, brought to you today by America First Credit Union. Look at that. You can support your team with the official Utah Athletics Visa debit card, free with America First checking options. As the official credit union of Utah Athletics, America First can offer our members the exclusive Visa debit card, along with all the perks that come with it. Exclusive cardholder benefits include special ticket offers. As an America First member, you can score exclusive tickets and prices to Utah sporting events. On Ticketmaster.com, you get early game day entry. If you've been to Rice-Eccles, you know this is big. You can beat the crowd and get into Rice-Eccles Stadium up to 2 hours prior to kickoff, 30 minutes sooner than the general public. Simply show a valid ticket and your America First Visa debit card to the security officers at Gate L, in the southeast corner. America First Credit Union is the official credit union of U Athletics. We'll catch a break. Gus Johnson joins us coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. The eyes of the college football world will be here on Salt Lake City coming up on Saturday morning for a 10 a.m. local kick. Not just the biggest game of the weekend, potentially the best game of the weekend. And Fox big noon kickoff will be here. Our next guest will be on the call, friend of the show, but it's been a long time. The great Gus Johnson here on the drive on a Wednesday afternoon. Gus, happy Wednesday, sir. How are you?
Is this my main man, Spencer?
Oh, you know it is, man. How are you?
Golly gee. How long have you held this job now?
Well, I've been in the market doing radio for 20 years. We just celebrated our 6th year anniversary for this specific show, though.
Wow, 20 years.
Well,
And I remember you when you were a kid
I know.
in New York.
That's
oh,
right.
Man.
That's
How's
right.
your dad?
He's good. Everyone's good. Everyone's good. And I told him I was having you on. This will catch you off guard, Gus. He turned 70 yesterday.
Wow. Man. But he always looks like he's about 28, to be honest with you. He's looked like he was 28 since I've known him, and that's been about 30 years, 35 years. He's a youthful looking. Is he still living in London?
No, they're back. They're back in Connecticut. They did their 3-year mission in London, and now they're back in Connecticut. And he's got an office in New York, not too far from where he was working when you guys became familiar.
Oh, wow. Well, tell him I said hello. Tell your mom I said hey.
I will for sure. How long have you been doing this now, Gus?
No, Spencer, you're not supposed to ask questions like that, dude. I just turned 58 on August 10th.
Okay.
And I have been doing this since 1987.
Wow.
When I started as an intern in D.C. when I was in college at Howard. So I don't know how many years is that. My math is a little shaky.
That's a lot of years. We'll just leave it there, Gus. You've been doing it a long, long time. Well, I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and I'll just ask you. We're very excited to host Fox Big Noon Kickoff, and wonder what your reaction was when you found out you were going to be calling Utah Texas Tech.
Oh, man. First of all, my first reaction was, thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus, for letting me go back to Salt Lake City. See, Salt Lake City is one of my favorite places in the world. Utah, the state of Utah, is one of my favorite places in the world. I've said this before. My two dear friends are there, Dr. Kyle Christensen and Dr. John Miller, who run a big-time dental practice out there. And when I come to Utah, they take me to Lake Jordanelle, and we get on the boat, and we water ski, and we hang out. And I tell you, over the years, I go back to coming to Salt Lake when I first started, when I was the voice of the Knicks on radio. I used to come. I've gone to Salt Lake for college basketball tournament, the NCAA tournament. I remember doing a great game there, Kansas State and Xavier on the corner of John Stockton and Karl Malone Lane, I remember those days. I think I even called a Gold Cup in Salt Lake City. I want to say I called a Gold Cup there when I was doing soccer. Does Utah have the WNBA?
No, we did for a few years, once upon a time, but we lost our team a number of years ago.
Yeah, I used to come there when I was the voice of the Liberty and call WNBA games. So Utah's always been like Salt Lake has always been like a retreat for me. And at times when things have been rocky in my life, it's been a refuge. So when I found out I was coming to Salt, last year we did BYU. That was the first time I had been in the Pro Bowl. And I tell you, man, the energy coming off that mountain in Pro Bowl is divine.
Yeah, it is.
I remember it's different, man. I mean, I'm from Detroit, so flatland. But, man, the energy coming off that mountain. I mean, I remember after the end of the game, I had so much vitality and energy after calling that game last year, BYU in Arizona. So, man, I can't wait to get there, and I'm looking forward to coming back to one of my favorite places on planet Earth.
Have you called a game at Rice Eccles Stadium before, Gus?
Mm-hmm. Plenty.
Okay.
Plenty of games at Rice Eccles Stadium. I have had an opportunity since I came over to Fox from CBS to call college football. This is my 15th year at Fox calling college football. And when we got there, we had the Pac-12. Actually, it might have been the Pac-10. But Utah has always been a part of, and we had the Big 12. So, Utah has always been a team that I've gone to cover for the last 15 years. And, it's always great to have a chance to go and cover the Utes, especially because of Coach Witt. I mean, he's a good man. Not only is he a great football coach, but a good man. And I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with Urban Meyer now that he is one of our colleagues, one of our partners. And, we've developed a real solid friendship. We consider each other friends. And I feel like that's my boy. And it's no surprise that Coach Meyer will hire somebody like Coach Witt to be on his team, on his side, and then move on, and Coach Witt take over that program. It's just been such a pleasure to cover him. And I remember last year, I heard rumors that he was thinking about retiring, but I just kind of knew that the way the year ended, still having those quarterback problems, that Coach Witt wasn't going to go out like that. So I'm so happy to be able to go sit with him on Friday at their facility and talk football and to talk life.
When will you be in town, Gus? What is your schedule? I'd love to come say hello if you're up on campus.
I'm going to be there on Thursday. I come in taking a late flight on Thursday, about 5 o'clock flight from L.A. But that's a short one. So I'll be there Thursday night. And I usually leave on Saturdays after the game, but I think I'm going to stay on until Sunday this week just to soak up that great, great, great Utah energy. Such nice people.
And it's interesting, and since you brought up LaVell Edwards Stadium where BYU plays, and of course Rice Eccles where Utah plays, the environments, the views, the mountains, and the way that both programs have elevated. Once upon a time, we were very much a basketball state. In a way, we still are. Unfortunately, we currently have an unserious pro basketball team, but back in the day, Utah basketball under Rick Majerus, BYU basketball, number of different iterations. Maybe the apex was the Jimmer Fredette years, but you can go back to the Danny Ainge years. You can go back even further. And then obviously 20-plus years of great NBA basketball with Frank Layden, Jerry Sloan, and the Millers. But our football market, Gus, has really grown, hasn't it, between these two college programs that a lot of people have taken note of?
Yeah, because they can play.
Yeah.
They can really, really play. I mean, the history of BYU football with LaVell Edwards and Steve Young and, all the great players that came through that program. And Coach Witt, starting with Coach Meyer. It's just these are great college programs, great people that are the leaders of these programs, and it's an energy, man. It's an energy of positivity with these programs, with these schools, and with the whole state. I always say, man, my two favorite cities in the world are Salt Lake City and Seattle. And I think both are like hidden gems that people really around the country don't understand. So, yeah, Utah football, the Utes and the Cougs, they have been playing great football over the years and entertaining and just a fresh feel all the way around. And they can play, and they win.
And, it's funny listening to you talk about your admiration and love for where we live here. As you know, I'm a Northeast kid, and out of, probably my 12, 13 good friends in high school, I came out to Salt Lake, and I had a friend that went to Boulder, and everybody else ended up back east in Ivy League schools and, have stayed in the Northeast footprint. And for a number of years, they would always ask me, when are you coming home? And I would say, well, I kind of feel like I'm home. You should come visit. And whenever anybody from the East Coast visits, when they land here, they'll come to the house. They'll just be blown away because, to your point, if you're not familiar with what it's like out here and the views and the beauty, and you've grown up on concrete or on flat land, To your point, I just don't think enough people really appreciate how good we have it out here. It's good living out here, Gus.
I mean, not only, you're right about all that stuff, the views and all that kind of stuff, the good live, but it's the people.
Yeah.
More than anything. And I sit there and I travel all around the country. I've traveled all around the world. And as an African American man going into a predominantly white state for the last 30-something years, I've had a chance to really sit and watch and listen and feel. And what I conclude, what I deduce, is that the people in the state of Utah really try to be good people.
Yeah.
Just really, the effort is amazing. It's just really amazing to me. I mean, like I said, two of my dearest friends are Dr. Kyle and Dr. Miller. And I just see their lives, and I've spent so much time with them that I know that they try to be good. Maybe because Utah is a faith-based state, because you see that commitment to being good and doing right and trying hard to be diverse and to look at things with empathy. I think more than anything, for me, Spence, that's why I like it.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. And that's not just with my two boys. That's with everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. People try hard, from what I've seen through my experiment, to just be good and right and happy. And to me, that lands on me more than anything. On top of it, it's one of the most majestic places that you'll ever go to in the world. I've been everywhere. I've been everywhere. I remember going to Calgary, Alberta when I did the CFL. I felt like that there. I felt that feeling like when I was in Calgary. And I would go call CFL games. Doug Flutie was up there back then. And yeah. So, I think that Utah is just a magical place. For me, at least, very, very magical.
And, Dr. Christensen and Dr. Miller, they're still my guys. John's my dentist. I saw him a couple of weeks ago, needed a little crown, and I'll have to tell him that you sent along your well wishes. And, obviously, great people. I'm curious, Gus, about the process. So your partner has become one of my favorite college football voices in Joel Klatt. And, obviously, Jenny's part of the equation, too. Jenny Taft does a great job. But the process that you and Joel go through, you're so dialed in, you're so prepared. It seems like Joel just is a fountain of knowledge as it pertains to the sport. Obviously, he played it at Colorado. I'm sure our listeners would be very curious as to the process you guys go through to make sure that when that ball is kicked off, you are prepared to do your job.
Interesting question. Joel is, how can I say it? He's just the best. He's the best. He's a good man, family man. He works so hard to try to make our broadcast not just good, but great. He's informative. He's handsome, in shape, accomplished 44 school records at Colorado when he left, and he was a walk-on. So he has gratitude for the position, but at the same time, he's hungry. And that's what you want as a veteran play-by-play guy. So he understands his position, and I understand my position, and we understand how to work together as a team. Because as Bo Schembechler said, there's nothing more important than the team. There's no coach more important than the team. There's no player more important than the team. We're going to believe in each other. We're not going to criticize each other. We're not going to talk about each other. We're going to encourage one another. Team, the team, team. And that's what we have on our team. All three of us We share in everything, whether that be good or bad. And I think Joel is a young announcer, still growing and still learning, coachable. So it makes my job really easy. I have to dial back a lot of times the stuff that I want to say so I can make sure that I put it on a dime for him because, in our booth, I'm John Stockton. I got to put it on the dime for my man. Easy baskets, dunks, layups, 11-footers. So I think that's what helps us. We like each other, Spence, and that's the most important thing. And I think it kind of shows on the air when we have a chance to do the game. We're not perfect. We make mistakes because we're human, but we really like each other, and we love the job. No better job on planet Earth than being a sports reporter.
Oh, it shines through. The chemistry is very obvious. And like I said, I mean, when you guys are on, I make it a point because, you're my guy, and I've really become a big fan of Joel's podcasts, his interviews. He's among the brightest and biggest voices in college football media. What are you – I think I know the answer to this question. I'm going to ask you anyway. My guess would be college hoops, but what are you most recognized for? I mean, college football is such a behemoth. It might be that now. But as you travel around, when people shout out your name, is it because of a NCAA tournament call? Is it a college hoops call? Is it a football call? Where do you feel like your biggest voice is right now, Gus?
Spencer, I don't think about stuff like that, man. I don't think about recognition. I don't think about any of that. And I don't think about criticism either. What I do is try to stay in the moment of my life and just try to enjoy the opportunity that God has given me, choosing me to do something like this and to speak to millions of people every weekend for the last 40 years almost. It's overwhelming to me sometimes. It is, sometimes I look at my life and I realize that my real life has exceeded my dreams. And sometimes that can be kind of difficult to deal with because what's next? I say to myself. My father told me, he said, son, one thing you can never lose is your ambition. And I said, Daddy, why? What does that mean? He said, son, you always got to, in life, have something to play for. And not only do you always in life have something to play for, you always got to put something on it, meaning you betting on you. And every day when I get a chance to be a part of this industry and this business, which is the greatest gift that the good Lord has given me aside from my son and my family, I just thank him for allowing me to do this, what I love, what I'm paid exorbitant amounts of money to do that I used to and would again do for free. Mommy said she gave me some of the best advice ever when I was in college. I thought maybe I should be a lawyer, something like that. So the Boys Club had this mentor program where you could go spend a day in the life of a person that worked in the field that you were interested in going into. So when I was in college, I picked a lawyer. In Detroit, the lawyer's name was Herbie Jenkins. He was a Boys Club kid like me, but now he was a lawyer working in downtown Detroit. And I went and spent the day with him. And it didn't take me more than 2 hours to know. I walked in his office and I saw all those files piled up on his desk. And I asked one question. I was like, is this every day? He was like, every day. I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer at that point. That very moment, I was like, nah, that's not me. So I went home and I told my mom. My mom asked me about how not the interview, but how the day went, spending it with Herbie Jenkins. And I said, Mommy, one thing I know is I don't want to be a lawyer. That's too much. I wouldn't be good at it. And she said, well, baby, the only thing I can say to you is pick a job that you'll jump out of bed in the morning to do, even if you only get paid enough money to meet your bills. And from that moment on, I went back to campus that next semester, and I discovered sports broadcasting. And it's been a wrap. I was head over heels immediately, love at first sight, in love. And it's been like that. It started like that, and it's like that this very moment as we talk on the phone. So I don't really pay attention to all that stuff, man. Daddy said that, when I started doing this thing and started getting a little recognition, a little attention, he said, all right, son, remember, everybody ain't going to like you. Everybody ain't going to like your act. So be prepared to deal with that too. And those are things that we deal with in today's world with social media and opinion. But, I keep moving and grooving, and I'm coming to Salt Lake this week, so I'm amped.
Great stuff. And I will risk asking you one more question because I have so many memories of great calls of yours. And I know that you just said that all you do is stay in the moment and be grateful for where you're at. My number one Gus Johnson moment is probably selfishly Allen Houston's bucket against the Heat to win the game for my Knicks back in the 90s. Again, keeping in mind that you stay where your feet are at. Do you have any memorable calls, any memorable moments? Do any of them stand out to you? I mean, you've had a million. I have a list of them in front of me. Do any of them stand out to Gus Johnson?
How many do you have?
Oh, man.
What's the number?
I mean, I could talk about your college basketball calls over the years. I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask the question back to, Gus, because you know my origin, listening to you call Nick games,
Yes.
So, there are a ton. There's a Gus Johnson list online, literally. I'm just wondering if any of them stand out to you at all.
Yeah, they all do.
Okay.
Every one of them.
All right.
But there are some that 1996, Princeton, UCLA, backdoor cut, Princeton wins against the defending national champions. We were in Indianapolis, RCA Dome, my first big national moment. Isaiah Thomas, Pac-10 championship, walk-off, cold-blooded jumper to win it. The whole thing. Shake, crossover, step back, pure. Woo! I still think about that. I still watch that. They did a nice, really good story, the Big Ten Network. You guys should go check it out on that moment. And they called it Cold-Blooded. So Google Cold-Blooded, Big Ten Network. And Isaiah talks, I talk, a couple of players talk. And that's one of my favorites because that was for a championship. I called, what else? Oh, even that game in Salt Lake City, double overtime, Xavier, Kansas State. Double overtime to go to the Final Eight. That game was unbelievable. Just the ebbs and flows and the shots these kids hit. I mean, there's so many NFL stuff, NBA stuff. I'm proud of the fact that I called 2 Champions League finals and 2 FA Cup finals.
Yeah.
I called the all-German final in Wembley. They told me that they hadn't seen this many German people in London since World War II. Ian Robin scored the game winner in dramatic fashion. I was there. I did the next one the next year, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid in Lisbon, Portugal. Diego Simeone, the coach of Atletico, the strong guy, the guy that got David Beckham all wrapped up, kicked off the pitch in the World Cup. And here it is. Real Madrid playing for La Decima, their 10th European championship in Lisbon. Cristiano Ronaldo scored on a penalty kick. And when he scored in front of his home fans in his country, he ripped his shirt off. And all of a sudden, you saw the beauty of man. Because this guy was beautiful. And he runs into the corner and slides, and his teammates jump on his shoulders. I mean, man, who makes it? I mean, I'm from the west side of Detroit, man. I never thought that I'd get a chance to see stuff like this, to be a part of it, for my voice to be on it, which is my spirit as well, and my heritage, my family. What, I am a descendant of slaves. My parents come from the segregated South. They all experienced Jim Crow and migrated to the Midwest almost as refugees. And for me, their kid, a Howard University graduate, to be able to see all this stuff, to do all this stuff, it's for me, it's divine, Spencer. It's divine. So those are some of the moments just off the top of my head. Another moment, when I was a young sportscaster working in D.C. trying to find my voice, and I used to call high school games, right? So I would just take my tape recorder and go to a high school game and prepare for it, go talk to the coaches and go talk to the SIDs, or not SIDs in a high school, but the guys that had the information. And I would just go into the stands and call the game. I remember calling one game, I think it was H.D. Woodson versus Coolidge or Cardoza. I think we were at Cardoza in D.C. I'm sitting in the stands with my little tape recorder. I'm calling the game, and I don't know. I remember the kid's name. Maybe his name was, Jeremiah Tucker. So Jeremiah Tucker, he bursts around the right side. Jeremiah Tucker, down the sideline. And all of a sudden, this lady sitting next to me grabs the microphone, and she said, "That's my baby. That's my baby." I grabbed the microphone back from her and said, "And your baby just scored a touchdown. Cardoza wins," or something like that. I remember those moments. It's an embarrassment of riches, bro. Just to let you know.
Well, Gus, I had a bunch of questions that I'm just going to throw out and ask you one more, because when it comes to somebody like you who has been able to achieve what you achieved, you often hear people that are in the ecosystem you're in say things like, "I didn't dare to dream this big." And it sounds like, in a way, that's what you're saying. So before I set you loose, what advice would you have for people out there that are trying to make their way through the world, if for somebody like you that maybe never even dared to dream this life that you have now?
My advice to them would be, go for it. Don't limit yourself. Push through the fear of failure. Don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do. You can do anything you put your mind to, you commit to. Now, can I be an NFL quarterback? I love that Peyton Manning commercial, by the way. Hey, niche job, but I believe in you. No, I can't be delusional, but whatever it is that you want to do, ask the good Lord to help you. And what generally happens is cosmic law. And in cosmic law, it doesn't conform to you. You conform to it. And that's what I think. Just don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid. But if you really want it, you got to commit to it. It's the commitment. It's the discipline. It's the patience. It's the belief. I wrote a poem. Do you want to hear it?
Absolutely.
I study a lot of the Socratic dialogues because my dad died in 2009, and my dad was my coach. He was my head coach, and he was my defensive coordinator. Mommy was the offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. But Daddy was the defensive coordinator, and he would not only did I love my dad, but I believed him. If Daddy would have said the moon was made of cheese, I would have brought crackers because I believed my dad. And he used to talk to me. So after he passed away in 2009, for many, many years after that, I felt like I didn't have a coach. I was lost in that regard. So somehow, I stumbled across the Socratic dialogues and Socrates and the things that Plato wrote down. And mass shout out to Plato. The ancient Egyptians always said the most important thing, the number one virtue is wisdom, and the most important thing is to write things down so that the person that comes after you will have an idea of what to do to survive. So I started reading these Socratic dialogues, and there was one piece in it where he was talking about the blending of the colors. He was saying you could take two colors and put them together and make one color. And then you could take one color and add them to many colors, and those many colors can become one color. So one can go into many, many into one. It's the same thing that it says on the money, e pluribus unum. I think that's Latin, though. Many, one. So when I discovered that, I started thinking, I was like, gosh, one into many, many into one. What does that mean? Gee. And so I started writing, and I wrote this. Here it goes. 3, 2. What does it mean to be a part of something? A part of an idea, a belief, a philosophy, a spirit, a collective soul. We all come from our own cultures, race, religion, ethnicity, individually. But when the one is united with the many in time, with discipline, commitment, patience, and faith, the many transforms into an amalgamation of all, blending a universal spirit connected to one consciousness. We work as one. We play as one. We serve as one. We believe as one. We fight as one. One into many, many into one.
Gus, we'll leave it there.
Hello?
Yeah, no, I'm just listening. I'm listening to my radio show right now. I'm here. But thank you so much. I mean, you are one of one. I can't thank you enough for your kindness to me over the years. And please reach out if you're in town. Nothing but love, my friend. Okay, safe travels.
My main man. Thank you for having me as always, man. And I'm proud of you, man. Keep it up, all right?
Thank you, Gus. I appreciate that. The great Gus Johnson. He'll be in town calling the Utah-Texas Tech game, which we talked about, I think, about 30 minutes ago to start out the interview. He'll be with Joel Klatt and, of course, Jenny Taft on the coverage. Appreciate Gus's time. I want to tell you about my friends at Advanced Window Products. You can get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more. Local Salt Lake company operated by the mayor of Sac Lake City, Nate Orchard. Definitely give them a call. They've got the fall football special going on right now where you can save $2,500 when you buy 10 windows or more. Phone number is 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100. Man, this job is a trip. You never know what it's going to bring day to day. We'll catch a break, and we'll get to know Texas Tech a little bit more coming up on the other side with Chris Level on a Wednesday edition of The Drive right here on ESPN 700. Special thanks to Gus Johnson for that wild ride. I've interviewed Gus maybe 4 or 5 times. You never know where it's going to go. I could not have anticipated the direction of that last conversation.
I don't know what to like put in the in the thumbnail. Like, how do you summarize it?
Did he give a shout out to Plato? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, he did.
All
He gave a shout out to Plato.
Okay. Well, I apologize to our next guest because we blew out the clock, but let's get to know Texas Tech a little bit. Chris Level joins the show on a Wednesday afternoon. Chris, how are you, sir?
Gentlemen, I'm doing okay. Hope you guys are doing okay too. And anything for my man Gus. So whatever we can do to accommodate Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, it was a wild ride. I tried to talk football. It didn't stick, so we moved on quickly. Chris, I have a very simple question for you out of the gates that we're also asking about the football team that resides here in Salt Lake City. How good is Texas Tech? What do you feel confident saying on this Wednesday?
I don't think we know. I think that some people think they know. Obviously this game has been talked about here locally in Lubbock for several days now, and I think that when you look at both of these teams, the floors for both of them are pretty high, but you don't know how it matches up. You don't know if they have, and I think they have staying power because I think that both teams are really good up front, and that's a bit abnormal in this league. You've got talent and depth and good big people, okay? And not everybody does in this league. And I think that will last. But how does it match up together? I just don't know. I mean, it's Texas Tech's first road game. Are we talking Wyoming is maybe the best team that either one of these two teams have faced to this point? I mean, can we base everything we know off of a game versus? I mean, I don't know. And so it's funny because so many people are saying this could be the first of 2 matchups, and these two teams could face off in Arlington. But I mean, Utah played Oklahoma State in the top 15 matchup last year, and we thought that was going to be a monster game, and it didn't turn out that way. I mean, Arizona State came to Lubbock last year and in the first conference game for Texas Tech and Arizona State, and Tech won that, but Arizona State was the one that made it to Arlington, and Texas Tech didn't. They fell short. So we got a long way to go, but I know this is a big game, and it's going to be meaningful. It could be the best game of the year, or it could just be one of 10 other really good games in this league the remainder of the year that kind of decides the conference race. But it's going to be a fascinating matchup. But I answer your question, I don't know if we really do know.
Yeah, it's really tough because UCLA stinks. I thought they did when Utah played them, and it turned out they may have even been worse than I thought. And I feel bad for our old Pac-12 buddy Oregon State, but I don't know that was an accurate litmus test either. I guess what I'll ask you is, what do you feel confident saying that you really feel like Texas Tech does very well prior to Saturday's game?
Well, because they've just basically played some glorified scrimmages to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bad non-conference schedule. It just was. I don't think that was the intent years ago when a lot of this was scheduled, but that's the way it worked out. And I think your quarterback is good. I think both quarterbacks are good in this game. I think everybody's talking about, Utah's offensive line, and they are legit. And I think Tech's defensive line is got a chance to be really good. But maybe this game is decided by the inverse of that. Like how good is Texas Tech's offensive line versus Utah's defensive line? That may be where this thing gets decided. And I think you've got an opportunity to score points. I think your quarterback is good. I think he's got weapons around him. I don't know how good they can run the ball, though. I think that's a question. They had an injury back in mid-August with Quentin Joyner, which would have probably been the starting running back. And I just have a question on, can they run it when they want to? They were really good in short yardage last year and in the red zone and all those things with Taj Brooks and a tight end that ended up getting picked up by the Dolphins and Jalen Conyers. And they were just really good at manufacturing short yardage situations and then near the goal line and all those things. And I don't know if they're anywhere near as good at that yet because we haven't seen it. And that's a fair question to ask, I think, about this Texas Tech team. And it's that part is going to be fascinating to me. But I do think you've got a good quarterback, and I do think that your defensive front is good. But is it good enough? That's a good question. I don't know if it is. We'll find out.
So a lot of attention, obviously, Chris, as you know, on the money infused into this program with Cody Campbell, a former player there, and the myriad of transfers that were brought in. Interesting that a lot of the transfers that were brought in that are highly paid are in the trenches, offensive line, defensive line. What's the narrative like where your feet are about this dynamic of the economic infusion into Texas Tech football?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was a bit uncomfortable with a lot of the stories being told over the summer, but they were just very transparent with it. Like, hey, this is the rules. This is what we're going to do. We see an opportunity here or a window before the rules change in the House settlement, and so we're going to kind of swing for it. They are. I don't know if the right word is embarrassed, but they are frustrated and I guess I'll just use that word, a bit embarrassed that they have never made it to at least the Big 12 title game. I mean, it's driven them, it's motivated them. They were very close last year. They beat both of the teams in the regular season that played for the conference championship, but they couldn't handle the rest of their business and fell just short. They were one win short, and so I think that. Because honestly, I'm very curious, and I will never know the answer. But if they do make it to the title game last year, do they empty the coffers and really are they that motivated to really go all in and really make a splash? I don't know. But because they got really close and they saw an opportunity and the timing was there and they had resources, because it wasn't just Cody, it was 5 or 6 guys that really, put forth the money. And I don't think they had an intention of trying to spend as much money or even add as many players. But when I think what happened is I think the original intent was to add 8 to 10 guys. But I think when they saw all the production available in the portal and they started to see how far their money would take them, they just kept going. And I think that it was just like, okay, let's just keep going and see how far we can take this. And so it ended up with 22, 23 guys. And it was, I think about half of that are linemen, offensive linemen and defensive linemen. They brought in a starter from Houston last year. It was a really good defense. And he's a backup defensive tackle in A.J. Holmes. So that's just not really what Texas Tech has ever had the fortunate to have that kind of depth or anything like that. But that's just where they were really bad there last year. The offensive line was very average. Defensive line-wise, they could get no pressure. They couldn't, create any turnovers, and the secondary was getting torched. And so they wanted to be better up front. They just wanted better big people. And so that's really where – but – I think you asked me about the narrative. I think they get frustrated around here acting like they're the only ones that have spent money on any players, because there's a lot of people that have done it and are doing it right now, and there's a lot of people that have been doing it for years, right, probably illegally. So that's I think that kind of triggers Joey a little bit in that, like, what are we the only ones out here? Because that's just not the case. I mean, there's players in the Big 12 conference that are making way more than any player at Texas Tech is, but that just story's not being told. So, but that's where it's at. But it's created a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations and all those things.
Well, I continue to say, because at Big 12 Media Days, we sat down with Coach Witt, and the reports are, and this stuff is so hard, Chris, as you know, because is the reporting accurate on the NIL? Is the reporting accurate on the figure? Is this player really making this money? No, nobody really knows, but The Athletic has floated the figure out there of $55 million in NIL resources dedicated toward Texas Tech football. And we asked Coach Witt about it. And he said, man, that would be nice. I think a lot of the pushback or criticism or whatever is just steeped in jealousy, because to your point, it's not against the rules. Like, BYU has had this massive, massive economic infusion in both their football and their basketball program. And they have the number 1 basketball recruit in the country playing this year. And they just signed the number 1 football quarterback recruit in the next class in Ryder Lyons. Like, But like you just outlined with Texas Tech, there's this cloak in Provo of people refusing to say out loud, yes, we are paying top dollar. If it's not against the rules, I say embrace it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and they did. I think they, I've talked to Cody. I've known Cody for a long time, and Cody will be in Salt Lake on Saturday. He's going to be at this game in person. They spent $55 million across the department, but that also includes revenue share. So this is mainly going toward football, men's basketball, and then softball. Oddly enough, but that includes the $20.5 million. So in other words, they spent $30 million extra on their football, basketball, and softball teams, and that I believe that to be true. How it got divvied up, who got what, that part you're right. That's a bit, but like there's a quarterback in the state of Kansas is I think making $2.5 million and not playing very well. You know, if you can believe agents and this some of this reporting and all those things. And so, but you're right. I mean, I think they just saw, okay, they were just at the forefront. I think they've tried to do a really good job of telling their story, which again, I think that's why a lot of the memes out there and a lot of the chatter out there, because they have been very transparent about it. But this is just how they wanted to do business, and they've got a really good relationship with a lot of the agents out there because they've never missed a payment. They've done what they said they were going to do. I think there's probably a lot of schools that promised some things and then didn't follow through with some of this stuff. And I think they're proud of the fact that they have followed through with everything that they said they were going to do. And now they're kind of tilting it toward high school players and tweaking some of their rev share numbers to really entice like high-end high school players, which is, again, they're recruiting at a much higher level around here than anybody's used to. But again, they're just trying to play within the rules and try to take advantage of some of it where they can. And it's just been interesting. So, but this is, people are like, is this an all-in year? Well, this is a big picture. And you guys probably talk about this, about like, does Utah want to end up in the Big Ten, and is BYU happy in the Big 12 and all that? Because there's another shift coming, guys, and we all know it. Like, we don't know what this sport is going to look like in 3 to 4 years when these next round of media rights deals come up. There's another shift coming. We don't know what it looks like, and I think that here this was an investment in trying to put your best foot forward with mainly football and men's basketball, because you don't know, do you need to be attractive for whatever is out there in 3 or 4 years? And the only way to be really attractive is eyeballs and winning and facilities and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I think a lot of this motivation came from. It's not just this year. It's trying to set a standard and elevate your program, because your program hasn't been very good in the last decade. I mean, that's just a fact. If you're talking about Texas Tech, I mean, they haven't pushed through and gotten over the hump, and they've been to bowl games and all those things. But again, never realistically have they challenged for a conference championship. And I think that's one thing that they want to like check off the list of to-dos is you got to make it to Arlington. And so they kind of went for it. But yeah, that's a lot about the narrative and all that, but it's been fascinating to kind of follow how everybody's talked about it.
Before I set you loose, you and I have already both acknowledged that it's impossible to know how good Utah is, how good Texas Tech is based off the opponent. I think both teams have looked really, really good. Utah's O-line is awesome. Tech, obviously, as a result of bringing in the recruits and the transfers we talked about, is very stout up front. Utah's a 3.5-point favorite. At home, Vegas typically builds in 3 for the home team, so if this was a neutral field, it's kind of a pick 'em. But before I say you lose, just tell me what your gut tells you, about this game, with both of us acknowledging that we're very curious to see how good both these two teams are.
My guess would be that if you wanted to pinpoint, one thing on each side, can Texas Tech run the ball when they want to, and can Devin Dampier throw it effectively when he wants to? That may be what this comes down to. Who does that better? Because, here's what else nobody's really talking about. You have 2 new play callers in this thing for both teams. Both offensive coordinators are brand new. How do they handle? Do they get more aggressive? Do they get conservative? What does that aspect look like? But I'd be willing to bet you that if Texas Tech is going to, very much respect what Utah does on the ground, they're running it for darn near 300 yards a game. And you may say, okay, this kid back at quarterback is very good, but let's make him throw it and throw it to some of these receivers and see if they can beat us doing that. And easier said than done. Obviously, if you can't stop the run, then it doesn't really matter. And then Texas Tech, I told you, I'm not sold yet that they can run it when they want to against a team like this. And I guess we'll we'll kind of find out together. But those are the two things for each team. And if either person answers that question and we kind of have a solid answer there, I bet that team wins. And I can't see that both teams will just both answer that question, or I guess maybe it comes down to special teams or something like that. But that's what I would say this thing comes down to. So but it's great for the league. I mean, this game is great for the league. You're all fighting for relevancy. And this is a game that's gotten some national attention, and it's got some interest and some eyeballs, and that's good for the league because there's not that many games that are going to be played in the Big 12 that are going to garner some national attention, but this is certainly one of them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, Chris, it should be fun on Saturday nonetheless. Thank you for your time, sir. For Ute fans that are looking for a preview or more about Texas Tech, where can they find your work?
Well, yeah, I do some stuff. I host Joey's coach's show and do a podcast, Locked On Texas Tech, and we have a website called RedRaidersports.com, so we try to have it covered here. But you guys are very kind to have me on today, and looking forward to a great weekend in Salt Lake City. But you guys keep hope alive, and we'll talk next time.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Chris Level, Texas Tech. A lot going on, man. It's interesting to consider what this game could look like when so many people that literally cover these individual teams still have no frame of reference based off some early season scheduling stuff. But I've talked a lot about that by now. You guys know that. We'll catch a break, but more good stuff coming up on the other side. Eric Weddle, former Ute legend, will stop by to break this down and get the latest on Eric, what he was doing these days on a Wednesday drive. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Unfortunately, quarterback injuries are the main storyline heading into week 3 of pro football, which starts tomorrow night with some Thursday night football that, of course, you can hear on our radio station after we say goodnight for week 3. But the Niners are now saying Brock Purdy has a chance to play this weekend. That's not an official announcement. Mac Jones played last week and actually looked really, really good. Kyle Shanahan obviously can coach up quarterbacks. So that, unfortunately, has been the storyline as Joe Burrow is officially out for 3 months. Jaden Daniels questionable coming up this weekend. J.J. McCarthy is out for 2 to 4 weeks. But, the Niners say Brock Purdy has a chance to return this weekend as they're going to play the Cardinals. At this point, Justin Fields has been ruled out. So the New York Jets will be playing with a backup quarterback tomorrow. It's the Dolphins and the Bills. That will get going right after we say goodnight on Prime Video is where you can watch it. You can listen to it here on ESPN 700 for a 6:50 kick time. And, we'll keep you up to date if any of these quarterback injuries become official. Dan Quinn spoke today and said Daniels the final tally on whether or not Daniels plays will be made coming up on Friday. But, yes, some surprising stuff as it looked like Brock Purdy was going to miss at least another week or two. I believe it is the backup quarterback in Minnesota is Carson Wentz. That's who it is. So Carson Wentz will be starting for the next couple of games when it comes to the injury to J.J. McCarthy. So pro football week 3 tomorrow, getting you one day closer to football. Obviously a big weekend around here. Some interesting stuff from Chris Level, who just joined us. Chris does the sidelines for Texas Tech football. He hosts their coaches show, and asked him about the narrative surrounding Cody Campbell, this powerful booster that is bankrolling Texas Tech football to the tune of, according to The Athletic, in the neighborhood of $55 million in NIL money for Texas Tech football. Now, Texas Tech, according to reports, is a full rev share pay-for-play member, which is $20.5 million. Every school has allocated that amount of money to spread out amongst its sports teams. Most people believe the number is around 75% goes to football. Report is Texas Tech spends about $15.5 million when it comes to pay for play for their football team. And then you combine a cool $55 million bankrolled by Cody Campbell and, according to Chris Level, 4 or 5 other powerful Texas Tech boosters that has brought them the number 1 recruiting class in the country. As I should say, the number 1 transfer portal class in the country that we will see coming up this weekend here in Salt Lake City. And as Chris referenced, and I talked about this earlier in the show, about half of the highest paid transfers are in the trenches. And as the story goes, Cody Campbell, a player at Texas Tech once upon a time, was watching some of the Big 12 matchups last year. And Texas Tech, Mike Leach back in the day when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and other high-powered coaches and quarterbacks, it seems like more often than not always has a high-powered offense with good skill position players. But it has been in the trenches where they have been left wanting. And, of course, that is Utah's bread and butter under Coach Witt for 21 years. So they bring in David Bailey, who's a defensive end that played at Stanford and wanted to play for Troy Taylor, committed to play for Troy Taylor. Troy Taylor was fired. He was a late entry into the transfer portal. I believe BYU was in on him. I think a lot of schools really wanted David Bailey. They paid him a grip of money, and he is an edge pass rusher. So to watch David Bailey go up against this Utah offensive line will be really fascinating. David Bailey, defensive end. They also brought in an offensive tackle named Howard Sampson from North Carolina, reportedly a 7-figure player. Romello Height is a defensive end that came from Georgia Tech. Another offensive tackle, and Will Jados that played at Miami of Ohio. An interior defensive lineman who started his career at Auburn, then went to UCF, and is now playing for Texas Tech. His name is Lee Hunter. Cole Wisniewski played at North Dakota State, won a national championship at the FCS level before transferring. So not an interior player. Amir Boyd, defensive back. Reggie Virgil is a wide receiver. Terrence Carter Jr., really talented tight end. And then Bryce Pollock is a defensive back. So those are 10. I think the final tally was 23 transfers for Joey Porter in Texas Tech, or I should say, Joey McGuire in Texas Tech. I think that was the final tally as far as the players that have been brought in. Now, the other conversation we were having with Chris, who stopped by. And he's right. I'm not arguing the point. I think this is applicable to both teams. There really is no way of knowing exactly how good either Utah or Texas Tech is right now. That's just the issue with early season scheduling. Texas Tech has popped in a way that seems very obvious. Now, Chris was very honest that the first 3 games have been basically glorified scrimmages. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State. Utah is a 3.5-point favorite here in Salt Lake City. This should be a battle. It should be a barn burner. It's a 10 a.m. kick. And our next guest joins us to talk Ute football and break it all down. Eric Weddle. Happy Wednesday, buddy. How we doing?
How's everything going? Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Big week for the Utes.
It is a big week. It's a huge week, and I'm going to ask you the question that we're all curious about. And look, Eric, they look really good. They do. There's no doubt about that. But with the competition being what it is, do you feel like you have an accurate pulse on just how good Utah football is this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talented. I think schematically we're as good as anyone when we line up on the field against our opponent. I think the physicality there. I think the energy is there. You just get the sense every time they line up on Saturday and cross that white line, it's their revenge tour from last season, and I think that is the calling card this year from the coaching staff on down, and you can tell by the way we play. So obviously this is a big test at home against a really good team, and you can only do what you can do on the field and play who you play, and we've destroyed everybody. Wyoming was a little iffy there for the first half, but I think Wyoming's a really good team and can match up physicality-wise with a lot of teams. So this will be a good test at home. There's no reason why we shouldn't go win this game.
Tell me your impressions, Ewed, of the quarterback, of Devin Dampier, who so far has been very clean, very dynamic, no picks, 7 touchdowns, 158 QBR, 73% completion rate, which is 8th in the country, 12th in the country, 2nd in the Big 12. He is exciting to watch. What are your impressions of Devin Dampier?
Yeah, he's dynamic. He's exciting. He's fun. He makes things happen. His completion percentage. My only nitpick is just making sure that we're progressing and getting the ball out in a timely fashion with the route concepts and predicated on the coverage. Because when we get against these top programs, when we get in the playoff, if we're fortunate enough to make it, that's what's going to beat teams, elite defenses, is understanding what they're doing defensively, having a good call up, and then getting the ball out and letting your athletes do it. So that would be my only drawback. I see a lot of times he's running around and he's making things happen. But against elite defenses, they got D linemen just as fast as you. So you're going to be tough sledding trying to run around and make things happen, which he could do. But I want to see him pick apart teams with his arm because I know that'll take us all the way.
Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Michigan State, and Utah all went with the approach of grabbing an OC and a quarterback that are familiar with each other, and all are 3-0. So talk to me about that. How important is the familiarity Devin has with Jason Beck?
Oh, it's so critical to the success on the field, the product. You have a quarterback not learning the system in 3-4 months, getting there in the spring. He's been running it. He's familiar with it. He's got live game experience with it. Now you're just learning your new teammates. You're not thinking, you're anticipating. You understand the verbiage and how the game's called from the coordinator's perspective. So it's huge. I mean, there's no what's the word? The reason why these teams are having success when these transfers and the coordinators change positions is because of the familiarity and the continuity that they have with their quarterback. They know what they can do, can't do, and everyone's starting behind the starting line where you're starting 10 yards ahead of it.
Interesting wrinkle this year, and it's been fun, Ewed, because every game Jason has a different new toy and a different new wrinkle and a different new approach. And I wonder how much of that is kind of just experimenting prior to conference play. But we're seeing at least 3 players, including Smith Snowden and Lander Barton, that play on defense, utilized on offense. I think you might know a thing or two about this young man. What are the challenges when your coach has asked you to play both sides, and what do you think of the way Jason's gone about this?
Well, I think it's awesome. I think for a player, in most cases, all these guys play both ways, and they're really talented. And at the end of the day, it's about winning football games. It's about being a close, tight-knit group and doing whatever it takes. And if the opportunity arises to help the team in a manner of getting 15, 20 snaps on offense, or help blocking on the edge on outside zone, and getting a play action throw to me, like, that's awesome. You should welcome that as a player and for that opportunity. Now, is it a little bit more work? Is it a little more practice time? Of course. But I think they've done a really good job of balancing those players out, not overusing them, kind of easing them into doing it both ways. And really, I mean, it's awesome. I think that's the way the game's going, and especially how talented some guys are. That, hey, give them a chance, go put them both ways, and see if it'll work out.
You seen it yourself in Smith Snowden at all? It's a comp that some have made around here. Obviously, a lot of football left, and Smith has a lot to achieve what Eric Weddle did. But any similarities between Eric Weddle and Smith Snowden?
Oh, man, he's probably better than I was. So offensively, at least. No, it's seeing all those guys. I mean, even Benny, too, at receiver, and obviously Lander, just making an impact, helping the team out. I thought it was always really cool to be given the chance to help the team, whether it was doing a fake punt or special teams, holding, or having a little role on offense. And so I think it's unique. I think it's awesome. And as long as they keep the main thing, and putting the time in, then the role should increase as time goes on.
So an interesting dynamic has manifested itself. Utah is 4th in the country in rushing per game. They're going for nearly 300 per game. It's 290. But we haven't had a 100-yard rusher yet, and which is fine. But Jason has gone about his business of splitting up the carries. Nakari has 36. Devin has 33. Wayshawn has 27. Hunter Andrews, Nate Johnson also in double figures. Tell me what you're seeing from your keen football eye about the snap distribution and the carry distribution that's kind of spread out among 4 or 5 different guys.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think in today's game, the days of having a bell cow, the 200 you carry back, 250, 300 if you're talking the NFL, you don't need it. And honestly, for running backs, you don't really want it. I mean, why take the wear and tear and all that bruising and hitting and all that extra stuff? Like, hey, get a good group, guys that you're confident in, rotate them out so you always have a fresh runner. And in the seriousness of a game, and you want to go with the hot hand or the guy that's in rhythm, then you keep that guy in there. But I like having fresh bodies out there. I would like a little bit less of Devin running, but he is just a little rhinoceros back there. Very rarely takes big hits. He took a couple of hits against Wyoming. I was like, get down. But he's a strong runner and dynamic. So you have a guy like that. It only puts pressure on the defense to be able to handle that. And we'll always have an advantage in the run game with him at quarterback.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask you a question I've asked a number of my guests. 16 carries for Devin against UCLA, 4 carries against Cal Poly. Obviously, that was a rout. 13 carries against Wyoming. What number do you think we'd like to see? Because we got to keep this kid upright, man. We got to keep him healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the game, obviously. But, I look at it very similar to what I try to do with Gage at high school. His rushing numbers are down because he's just too important. But if the game's on the line, you're going to run him because that's your best runner, and you're going to try to win the game. So I would almost like it to be, 5 to 8 through 3 quarters, maybe design runs, because that he's going to run around passing, and then in fourth quarter time and it's winning time, then that number gets into double digits. But I would always try to manage that, calling plays, knowing the importance of him, got to have him on the field, but also knowing you're almost saving him for winning time when you need it.
I don't know how much Texas Tech football you've watched. Obviously, you're busy doing your own thing. I know you watch Utah, but like the Utes, they have curb stomped and ran away from 3 opponents. We had one of their broadcasters on earlier who called them 3 glorified scrimmages. Do you have a feel on just how good Texas Tech is at all, Eric?
No, I know they got a really talented front four, but again, like a lot of people say about us, we haven't played anybody. This game will be telling of where each program is and where they're going to be going after this week. So it's a lot of. I love the matchups, like our offensive line and the talent and the physicality against their defensive line, and they got a couple transfers in there. They got a couple, highly touted guys, and so it's going to be. It's going to be, hey, our best versus their best, and who can execute, who can do the things needed to win the game, right? Not kill themselves and not make those silly mistakes that usually end up losing the game. So I haven't watched much. All I really heard is whoever that guy went on air and saying that Utah and our fans and our stadium isn't a hard place to play and we're nothing. I would love to get him on the air with you guys after this win that we're about to have, and to help him have a nice little reminder of playing at Utah is one of the toughest places to play.
I am not familiar with this story. I try not to live on the internet. Do you have any inside information on who this person is?
I think he was like a Texas Tech beat writer, some voice of Texas Tech. I don't know. I'll have to find it and send it. It was probably like a week and a half ago.
Okay.
Maybe it wasn't even that big a deal. Maybe I just like to take on personal things against my school.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, Ewed, tell me how a 10 a.m. kick changes preparation for a player.
Oh, my gosh. I don't want to put too much into it, but I'm honest, and it's going to be a difference. Like, man, you're thinking usually you eat pregame meal 4 hours before the game, so I doubt they're going to be waking up at 6 a.m. to eat. So I bet they push that back. They probably not going to do their traditional walkthrough and clap session and all that stuff that they normally do on a Saturday because they don't have time. So you have to push that back to Friday night and try to get all that in there. It does change things. It's how you handle that and how does the coaches prepare you guys, and are you fresh? Are you mentally alert? Are you ready to rock? I don't see it being a problem. We're at home. It's going to be electric, or everyone's going to be watching the game. But it is a different playing at 10 when you normally the earliest you would ever play is a 1 o'clock game. So it'll be interesting to see for both teams.
All right, before I set you loose, I got to check in about Gage because every time I followed him on social, it seems like he is drawing the attention of like big-time programs across the country. Is our guy going to be a Ute? Ewed, what's the latest with Gage?
Well, in my heart of hearts, I could only hope and dream that he would end up at Utah. But he is his own man, and he is on his own journey. I'm just kind of helping him along the way. And it'll be interesting. I don't know. He's a very interesting kid. He's a big thinker. He wants to be the best ever. And so now does that mean going to his dad's school and trying to carve out his own name, or is that going somewhere else? I don't really know. But he just needs to stay humble and hungry and continue being a great teammate, and he'll have everything right there in front of him in a few years.
Well, the highlights are certainly impressive. He's an impressive young man, Ewed, so you've done a great job. Best of luck with that, and as always, thanks so much for the time, man. Be well, okay?
Always. Good to see you, brother.
All right. The great Eric Weddle, one of the best of all time. Some good insight on what it's like to play on both sides of the ball, and that young man might know a thing or two about that. All right, we'll catch a break, get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program. Gus Johnson stops by for a conversation that I'll just say you will not want to miss. But let's welcome in Ryan from the Dish Pros. Hopefully, through 3 weeks of college football, I guess 4 including week 0, and 2 weeks of pro football, you've had all the games you wanted at your disposal. If you don't have Dish and you're a sports fan, I can promise you you're doing it wrong. And you'll save a lot of money with all their promotions. You'll save money on internet as well. Just give them a call at 801-424-DISH. What's going on, Ryan?
Spence, thanks so much for having me on, as always. We just keep continuing to save people money. And, guys, listen, a bunch of you are listening, and you haven't called me, but you got to call and take advantage of this. I had 2 customers in the last 2 days that are almost $100 to $130 a month that they're saved by calling us. With the internet solutions that we have, which are fantastic, I have about 7 different providers, and a lot of these cover most of Utah, northern Utah. Call us up and take advantage of the internet solutions. Get rid of that internet that's slow or glitchy or doesn't work. Or most of them are just overcharging you because they think that you're just not going to go anywhere. But here's the thing: there is other options out there. We can lower your bill and save you a ton of money. On the TV side, every day, guys, listen, cable, DirecTV, I guarantee it's a minimum 30. 60, 70 is more common a month that you're going to save. Plus, you're going to get 3 months free on Dish's top package, which is like 400 channels. And you get that free for the first 4 months. You get a 2-year promotion. The price is guaranteed. And, guys, you get the best DVR. This thing is awesome. It's super fast. It's 16 tuners. That means you can, in all sense, record every single football game on Saturday and have it on your DVR. No problem. Easily done. And you'll have access to watch that wherever you go. Plus, all the streaming apps are built in. If you have, let's say, ESPN Plus, it'll just be on the guide because it'll integrate right in the system. Just like if you have want to watch Thursday Night Football, that's just that's a channel on the guide. You can just open Amazon Prime and boom, there it is. It's set up to go. So call us up, take the 3 months free, get the NFL Red Zone free with the multi-sports pack for 6 months. We'll throw in Showtime and Paramount Plus free for 4 months, set you up with dinner at JCW's. Guys, it's such a great opportunity. Don't sit on your hands. Pick up your phone and just call us and let us work our magic because no high pressure. It's just going to be less money and a better solution. You just got to call 424-DISH. It's 801-424-DISH.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Professionals. We have 3 hours down. We have 1 hour to go on this Wednesday afternoon. The 5 o'clock hour of the program comes your way next, right here on ESPN 700. All right, let's get a Drive at 5 time Wednesday afternoon. You are halfway through that work week. You're one day closer to the weekend, one day closer to football. In the world of the NFL, Thursday Night Football features the Dolphins and the Bills. It's going to be a 6:15 kick time tomorrow night, and you can hear it right here on ESPN 700 right after we say goodnight at 6 o'clock. Of course, all eyes on Utah, Texas Tech. The eyes of the college football world will be on Salt Lake City coming up this weekend as Utah, Texas Tech are slated for a 10 a.m. tilt at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Fox Big Noon kickoff is in town. Stay tuned in a few minutes. Gus Johnson, the man who will be calling that game, will join the program. And let me just say this, you're not going to want to miss that conversation. Gus is one of one. He's been doing this for about 40 years. Best known maybe for his college basketball calls. He's been doing college football for Fox for 15 years. UEFA Champions League, FA Cup Finals, boxing, NBA, NFL, does it all. Of course, he'll be alongside Joel Klatt, Jenny Taft on the sidelines. Former Ute coach Urban Meyer will be here. Brady Quinn, Matt Leinart. The Big 12 pregame will be anchored by Rob Stone, who will be a guest on this show tomorrow. Utah remains a slight favorite at home, 3.5 points, according to FanDuel. Those are the odds right now. Vegas typically builds in 3 points for the home team, so if this was a neutral field, they're telling you that this would essentially be a pick'em. So excited to learn more about Utah, excited to learn more about Texas Tech, as I continue to say, and we discussed this earlier with Chris Kamrani, who was live in studio for an entire hour, and then Chris Level, who joined us, who does sidelines for Texas Tech. Everyone seems to be on the same page with both these teams. They look awesome. Both Utah and Texas Tech look really, really good. How good are they? Saturday will manifest some answers that we have not had so far. Both teams have boat raced 3 inferior opponents, and now we will see as conference play begins. BYU is back in action. They're going to hit the road to take on East Carolina. First road test for the Cougars. Young Bear Bachmeier under center as a freshman will hit the road to take on a team that they should handle. They're a 7.5-point favorite, but that's a game that could get weird as you're traveling a couple of time zones to North Carolina to take on a team that has a pretty good attack through the air. But a 7.5-point spread is what Vegas has right now for BYU and East Carolina. So there you go. Local college football storylines, unfortunately, for the NFL as it pertains to the main storylines. Joe Burrow out for 3 months. J.J. McCarthy out for at least 2 weeks, if not more. Now, some breaking news a little bit earlier as the 49ers are now saying Brock Purdy has a chance to play this weekend against the Cardinals. It was thought that Brock might miss this week and next week. Now, the good news for the Niners is Mac Jones played very, very well. It looks like Justin Fields is going to sit this week for the New York Jets. It will be the Tyrod Taylor story. And then Jaden Daniels, according to Dan Quinn, his status will not be determined until Friday, but he did go through a walkthrough today. He did throw, and he may practice lightly tomorrow. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But the early season storylines in the NFL, unfortunately, regard a lot of injuries to quarterbacks and others as well. All right, want to let you know that coming up next summer, that's right, we are early, very prepared early for next summer. Want to let you know that Riley Green is coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater next summer. We are excited to welcome Riley Green. Ticket information can be found at ESPN700sports.com. All right, we will catch a break. Don't go anywhere. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Gus Johnson, who's calling the game on Saturday, will be my guest. Coming up on the other side of a Wednesday edition of The Drive, and it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. Yeah, you have no respect for the bylaws of the show. You're just going to go in there rogue. You're going to play the biggest hit in the history of the greatest jam band of all time, even though it's deep tracks only. You're being defiant. You clearly don't care about the bylaws of this radio show.
I just have to usurp the bylaws, the unwritten rules, right? For the FCC rules, unfortunately. They only give me so many Dave Matthews songs. Some of them, all of them, you would argue, are hits.
They're all hits. I got to say, it's cold in the studio today. I'm kind of cold.
Nice.
Just kidding.
Little air conditioning.
You know what actually happened yesterday, which is hilarious? The air conditioning was not broken. We were literally testing the heater. The heat was turned on in the studio. It wasn't that the AC was broken.
That'll do it.
Our guy, what was his name, Terry?
Lynn.
Shout out Lynn. Terry. Actually,
Lynn.
just turned off the heat and turned on the AC, and it solved everything.
It'll do that. It'll do that. Little heat in September.
The Clippers are in trouble, man.
They should be.
Baxter Holmes wrote a piece. Nobody gives a rip about this here. NBA basketball, not topical right now, but Baxter Holmes wrote a piece, and it's clear that there's a lot going on here behind the scenes, and a lot of it involves Steve Ballmer himself. If you're Adam Silver, I don't think you can turn a blind eye to this.
I said that before, like it was the first reporting where Pablo kind of laid out the $48 million back and forth, right? Since then, we've learned about more payments and more back and forths between the Clippers and Kawhi and more direct connections between, Aspirate, whatever the company is, fake tree planting company, more direct connections between them and Ballmer and the Clippers. Oh, and Steve Ballmer directly introduced Kawhi Leonard to these fraudsters, apparently. There's just too much smoke for there not to be fire. And whether Steve Ballmer went out and intentionally circumvented the cap or he, as he's claiming, was oblivious to it all, he's accountable for both of those situations because he owns the team. So if he, like he claims, had no idea that Kawhi had worked a backdoor deal with a company for a no-show job, either way, he needs to be held accountable. The Clippers need to be held accountable, and teams around the league should take notice. Mark Cuban has been notably on the defense of Steve Ballmer. I wonder why that is. Maybe some more to look into there.
Yeah, and, the trade they made for Paul George has turned out to be so atrocious and directly led to Oklahoma City not just winning a title this year, but being set up to win titles moving forward. Aspiration was the name of the company. Real Utah County energy there. Obviously a Ponzi scheme that has gone belly up. Nobody gives a rip about that. Hey, real quick, fun catching up with Eric Weddle today. I've just seen some highlights of his kid. You're saying that Oklahoma has offered him. You're saying he's top tier, yeah?
It's funny because Eric Weddle was like such an unheralded recruit. He was this, 5'9", not that explosive athlete who Kyle Whittingham went and watched, and there was no recruiting around him. For Utah, they were like the only school that, bigger school that offered Eric. And it is going to be the opposite story with Gage Weddle. I'm telling you, I don't know what position he's going to play. I think he'd be really, really good on the defensive side of the ball, just how instinctive he is. But when you start seeing the Oklahoma offers roll in, the USC stuff, this is a kid who's going to be on the radar of like top flight college football programs. I don't know whether that means high 4-star or 5-star recruit. But he's going to have the attention of top flight SEC Big Ten schools, and Utah's going to have to compete with that if they want to.
Good stuff. Well, fun show today. A lot of good guests, Porter. Nice work. A sermon from Gus Johnson kept us entertained in the 5 o'clock hour.
Shout out Plato.
Indeed, which is not a line I anticipated on my radio show today, but hey, you never know with this job. All right, before we get out of here, what comes our way on a Thursday edition of the show?
Thursday edition of the program. You mentioned Rob Stone of Fox Sports will stop by. He'll be on the broadcast for Texas Tech and Utah a little bit later on. Kyle Bonagura, his weekly hit from our friends at ESPN.com. We were late catching up with our guy Dave Fox, but we'll still do so on game week. And we're going to chat with Tony Jones. Of course, you mentioned Tony on the way out. But maybe we'll talk a little college football with him as well. He covered it for a long time here in the state.
We will miss Tony Jones in our market. We wish him well in Philadelphia, and we wish you well, and we will say goodnight. Special thank you to Chris Comrani, Gus Johnson, Chris Level, and Eric Weddle. Good stuff today. If you missed any of it, good news. It's online because it's 2025. Although don't be too online. Feel like that's getting loose. Anyway, that's my statement for the day. ESPN700sports.com is where you go. Download our our app, our mobile app also. Take us on the go. That's what you should do. ESPN 700 app is available App Store, Google Play Store for free. And then if you like what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, check out our podcast page. It is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Enjoy your Wednesday evening. It's football time tomorrow, and you can catch all the action right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700.